It's decision time, NASCAR fans. Who gets you the points? Who gets you the wins? Who gets you the bragging rights? Who gets you the championship? Sign up and play today at NASCAR.com/fantasy.
Live tonight from the virtual Richmond Raceway, we go sim racing for round number 5 on the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Our third with the all-new 2019 Aero package, and our first short track of the season. We're so happy you could be with us tonight on the iRacing Esports Network. Tim Terry, Randy Cheneth, and Evan Pasoko getting ready to call all the racing action for you this evening. And Randy, it always seems like this series amps up when we go short track racing, and Richmond Raceway always provides some great racing action.
It always does, doesn't it? I mean, it's one of those things we don't get to do as frequently as some of the other tracks, of course, on the service, but Richmond, it's really been a staple of this championship for a long time. It's been a historical stop for these guys, and it always puts on an amazing show.
Drivers just getting ready in their final practice session to go racing here this evening. See the track stats on your screen right now. It's a 3/4 mile racetrack, always provides some great racing. We've seen some different trends here throughout the years, but one of these racetracks that has been on the schedule every single year since we threw the green flag on this series back in 2010. It's been very exciting these last couple of weeks, and Randy, with a short track with this new package, it puts the racing back into the driver's hands a little bit compared to what we saw the last 2 weeks.
It definitely does, and this is the first time for these guys on this new package that they get to go short track racing. We've seen that package, of course, at Auto Club and at Texas, but this is the first time we drop under a 1 mile racetrack and bring the horsepower back up a little bit. So a little bit more throttle control probably for these guys, and it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out, especially with the championship starting to heat up. Of course, it's Ryan Luza who's pretty much dominated the first few rounds of this series. We have Keegan Leahy still very close in tow, but those top two really separating themselves from the rest of the field.
And they start on opposite ends of the field this evening. But before we go racing at Richmond, you mentioned Texas Motor Speedway. We'll take you back 2 weeks to round number 4 of this series when we went racing at the Texas Motor Speedway. The Texas Remix is next.
The road to $100,000 takes on No Limits Texas. We're from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. We say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 4 of the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. The pace cars down at Endo, and Michael Conti, familiar territory. He takes the green flag. We're underway from Texas. It's about as far apart as you could be. We'll be in side by side. Michael Conti not at all interested in pinching that 53 down. They were dead even that last time by the gap 0.000. But look at the A car way up high. He's not squeezing the 53 down. Conti really likes that run off of the corner there.
A little bit of drama in front of him, and we're about to shake everything up as Challoner gets caught up in an incident through the quad oval.
After 135 laps of green flag in the air, 6 laps to go from Texas. Here they come into turn 4. The 62 again tries. Left side tires are into the grass, and a caution flag behind them.
18 is Linsky caught up in this huge incident, and did we actually make our window?
Lights on top of the pace car are out, and we have a 1-lap shootout to decide it. As we come to it, 1 more lap to go.
tight restart. Keegan Leahy holding that outside line. Corey Vincent hasn't been able to get up to the back bumper of the 53 of Ryan Luza as of yet, and shuts the door. There goes the 62 to the outside. Corey Vincent to the inside. They're going to drag race behind Ryan Luza.
It's side by side for second, but here comes Leahy to the outside of Luza. Side by side challenge in turn number 3, but they're all going to box each other in. Luza sees daylight at turn number 4. The challenge going to come to the outside. It's a big wreck behind him, but it is Ryan Luza, winner at Texas.
The road to $100,000 heads to the virtual Richmond Raceway, where we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round number 5, 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. So happy that you're with us for another Tuesday evening of eNASCAR action here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. For some sim racing action, some short track racing action. Alongside myself, Tim Terry, is Randy Cheneth, and Evan Pasoku will be joining us here shortly. And Randy, short track racing coming up here at Richmond Raceway, 200 laps, pumping and grinding, beating and banging. The one goal is, though, to get to victory lane, and we've seen some great racing action here in the past. I'm sure we're getting ready to see another one here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We've seen some great racing and a lot of beating and a lot of banging on this racetrack. My mind goes to last season's race with Bobby Zielinski, who I think we saw go from the top 5 to outside of the top 30 to back into that top 5 about 3 or 4 times over the course of that 200-lap race. And that 200 laps, don't think that's irrelevant. That's pretty up there for these guys and the sort of race distances they typically do. While the track is short and the lap count makes up for it, if we start stringing a lot of cautions together, this race is going to feel like a long time to all these guys.
We're going to race into the darkness as well. As you can see, the sun setting over this Richmond Raceway. You look at the championship standings coming in after Ryan Luza's victory. He's once again at the top of the scoring pylon. Keegan Leahy is 10 points behind Michael Conti, Jimmy Mullis, and Zach Novak, your top 5. But when you look at the starting grid here tonight, Randy, Ryan Luza up in front. He won. Keegan Leahy all the way back in P32. So opposite ends of the spectrum for your top 2 when we throw the green flag here for 200 laps.
Yeah, not what you would have wanted at all if you're that driver of Keegan Leahy. Is it starting 30 seconds here tonight? Michael Conti's done a very good job, though, in qualifying, put in the number 8 car, 8th overall. He's been very good, actually. Been really impressed with Michael's qualifying efforts thus far this season, Tim. I think the worst we've seen him start is somewhere around where he is tonight, 8th or 10th.
Just off your graphic, you'll find Ray Alfala in 11th in the point standings, and he's won the last 2 races here at Richmond Raceway. He's won 3 overall. Randy, he's led over 450 laps here since we started coming here in 2010 with this series, and he's qualified in position number 13. We've seen him come through the field before. Keep an eye on Ray Alfala. I think he might have something for these guys here tonight, trying to turn it around in the Wood Brothers 21.
Well, he qualified 13th quickest tonight, so he's going to have to work his way through the field, and I tell you, he's going to have to, I think, come away with a win to really turn this season around and to start doing so. It's been a horrible first handful of races for that Wood Brothers number 21, so if he doesn't come away with a win, I think he's probably going to be leaving here thinking this is going to be the opposite of a championship year for him. And what a good package for him to come back on, Tim. A track we know he's good at, and we up the horsepower back. If he's one of those drivers struggling with the sort of lack of horsepower these drivers are now having to deal with, maybe this is going to be a good equalizer for him, bump those numbers back up, and really throttle control himself his way up front.
And you see some drivers there that started out maybe subpar for this season. Logan Clampett missed the season opener. He's currently 20th in the point standing. Still a long way to go here as we go through this 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series season. Still lots of laps to run here, and of course Richmond Raceway going to play a huge effect into this one as we get ready to go to the grid and get ready to go racing here this evening for 200 laps of short track racing action. And we'll go to that starting grid to see who starts where here this evening. And on the pole, as we mentioned, it's going to be Ryan Luza in car number 53. Has been quick all season long. Quick here once again. He clocks in on the front row alongside Mode Motorsports number 20. 24, that's Cody Bias. Row number 2 is going to see another quick pair of drivers, including Chris Shearburn for Letarte Esports. Great qualifying effort there. You see Kerwin in a 4th and completing your top 5. Looks like Logan Clampett's put in a great qualifying effort too.
Yeah, he definitely has. So good work there from Logan. Jake Nichols will roll off 6th with Ashton Crowder in 7th. Michael Connie, as mentioned, will start 8th with Dylan Duvall in 9th, and Michael Guest will round out your top 10 cars.
Starting in position number 11 this evening is Bobby Zielinski to the outside, or Corey Vincent in 11th, Bobby Zielinski on the outside of row number 6. Then Ray Alfala and Jarl Tien, row number 7, and completing your top 15 as we work through Jimmy Mullis. He knows this racetrack fairly well.
Yeah, he does just a little bit. Eric J. Smith, the winner out of Fontana. He's going to roll off 16th with Zach Novak, who started this championship so strong, but the last couple rounds really haven't gone his way. 17th, Garrett Lowe at 18th, Matt Busa 19th, and Nathan Lyon will start 20th.
Blake Reynolds in 21st, 22nd is Phil Diaz. Brian Schoenberg will start the double nickel from 23rd. 24th is Casey Tucker and Taylor Hurst. He's got a good track record here, Randy. He'll start 25th.
Michael Garuglia will be in 26th with Christian Challoner in 27th, Logan Kress in 28th, Brandon Hayes-Cattell 29th, and 30th will be Ben Nelson.
Adam Benefiel in 31st, 32nd, Keegan Leahy, Malik Ray in 33rd, 34th, Nick Shelton and Timmy Hill in 35th, Ryan Lowe, Brad Davies, and Chris Overland completing your field of 38 starters here. The Richmond Raceway as Ryan Luza leads our field around, and the outside Cody Bias going to lead this field down to green at Richmond Raceway for round number 5. Glad you could be with us here on Race Spot TV and the iRacing Esports Network as we get ready to do some short track racing, and the field will come by one more time and we'll get ready for green next lap by. Randy, how do you see this race playing out? Do we see a green flag field at the start of this one, or do we see those short track tempers come out early?
Could go either way, can it? We saw some long runs last time we stopped at this racetrack last year in 2018. That quickly got hampered with some mid-race cautions, and we really kind of chained yellows all the way to the end of the race. I think with the number of laps, we'll eventually get a long run in at some point. It could come at the start, could come after a couple of quick yellows, though. I think it's really up in the air which way these guys can go.
We've seen 2 races here in the past where we've had 2 cautions through 200 laps, so we'll see if that transpires here this evening and see what race we have unfold for us for round number 5 of the 2019 NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series season. The pace car will duck off here and we'll get ready to go racing, and Ryan Luz is already on it. Green flag flies and we're underway for round number 5. Cody Bias going to find his way into the inside line into second in front of Shearburn, and to the outside looks like Casey Kerwin already to the outside trying to get second place away, and now trying to hold off Shearburn on the inside for third.
So getting aggressive up here out in front, the 24, the 36, and the 14. Ryan Luza is loving this, as what a first lap from that 53 car puts half a second between himself and the rest of the field, as Bias is sort of locked down to that middle to lower groove through 1 and 2. Can he get up against the wall? Yes, he can, down the back straightaway. Now the fight for third between Kerwin and Shearburn.
So a good start up in front by your top 2, and now this battle for third continues to rage on. Casey Kerwin on the outside, Chris Shearburn. We've got the 2 Burton Kligerman Esports teammates on the inside of the next row behind as they try to make their way through. Clampett leading Crowder, and to the outside, the 20 of Jake Nichols. Great qualifying effort for that Camry, and to the outside he is now on Ashton Crowder, as these guys getting at it early here, trying to pick up some spots in the early laps here at Richmond.
Yeah, that's what you want to do. You don't want to get locked in the back in the field here, because it can be really difficult with all of these drivers still working their way forward. That 77 car still on the inside of the 8 of Michael Connie and trying to maintain the overlap on the 20 of Jake Nichols. Good qualifying, by the way, from that 20 car of Nichols. Good to see him getting some representation up front. And still the 14 and the 36, they have not gotten off each other's doors, as they are now 5 laps into this thing. They've been side by side since the start.
They're still dancing with each other, but they've swapped paths. The inside is now Casey Kerwin, to the outside Chris Shearburn. Compared to those first couple laps, he'll complete lap number 5 this time by. Shearburn will roll the top, and that Letarte Esports number 36 try to take that position away, but Kerwin will be able to get that inside line down into 1 and fight back. And they better get this figured out, Randy, because here comes Logan Clampett. Clampett's been able to free himself from the battle behind him, and he's bringing along his teammate Ashton Crowder. And don't look now, the Junior Motorsports number 8 of Michael Conti working his way up here, trying to get a top 5 run early.
I think you're right, and not only does he want to get themselves figured out, not only because they don't want to bring those cars out ahead of them back into the mix, this is going to really eat their tires up as well. I mean, we're 7 laps in, but you got these 2 cars out in front of Luza and Bias single filed out. They're going to be not using their tires nearly as much, being able to use the entire racetrack. The 14 of Kerwin, though, doesn't seem to have the pace on the bottom off the 4, so Shearburn will take that spot away, and now Casey has to deal with that charging 99 of Logan Clampett.
And he'll move to the upside, will Logan Clampett. He'll take his teammate to the upside as well, and Michael Conti will fill the void to the inside as they come off of corner number 4. They'll complete lap number 8 this time by, and you mentioned up in front Ryan Luza running his own pace right now. You look back to position number 2, and Cody Bias was able to free himself a little bit from that battle, but Chris Shearburn has been able to drive him down, and a little battle out of this second place spot, and behind them Logan Clampett has made his way past Kerwin, and now Ashton Crowder takes a peek to the outside of the 14 as they'll dance for that position.
So both of the Burton Kligerman cars forward through here doing, good job picking themselves spots up early here as the 14 car of Kerwin has been locked on the bottom, and look at Ashton really chopping the nose of that 14 car. Now you have Michael Conti, a series champion in this series. He's going to see these guys being so quick on the top. He should make short work of this 14 car of Kerwin, who's just been locked on the bottom since the drop of the green flag, Tim, and he's done nothing but get freight trained.
He's going to find a spot in the line just in front of them. Shearburn's been able to get to the inside of Cody Bias for position number 2, and that's about all it's been so far, Randy. Chris Shearburn got to the inside, has been working that inside line for the last 5 laps or so, but hasn't really been able to get the momentum to get that pass made. Cody Bias rolls the top off of the corner, gets that shot down the straightaway, and pulls back even with them, but as we said before with some other battles, they better get this finished because here comes Logan Clampett. Clampett on the move to the outside. He goes on Shearburn, and now it'll be a battle for 3rd as Bias sneaks away once again with position number 2.
Bias will hold on to 2nd, but can Logan pick up that 3rd spot? We've seen the outside be where you want to be. That's exactly what happens. Logan makes short work of that, gets outside and clear of that 36 car Shearburn. Now Ashton Crowder wants to do this, basically copy what his teammate of Logan Clampett just accomplished on this end of the racetrack 1 lap ago. Through 1 and 2, Ashton will roll the top, cut that throttle. So those drivers stuck on the inside, really not having the speed as Ashton gets himself now up another position. Meanwhile, all this fighting's been happening. Ryan Luza is checked out in about 15 laps to a 2.5-second lead over this field.
Continues to pull away as they battle for position number 2, but those NASCAR America Camrys continue to roll towards the front of the field. Whatever they have figured out, Randy, they've got it figured out fairly good because they're going to battle for position number 2 here now with Cody Bias, the Mode Motorsports number 24. I'm sure Kyle Long is cheering on his driver, having a great qualifying effort, and has been running up in front. Has had a couple of issues take him out of the race, and last couple of rounds, and now Cody Bias showing his muscle right now in position number 2, but he's got a hungry field behind him, and we mentioned those 2 Burton Kligerman Esports teammates. Michael Conti is there as well. Conti has made his way up into the top 5 for the first time this evening.
Yeah, you're right with these guys. To a certain extent, though, Tim, I feel like they have to start playing nice with one another. It's a 200-lap race, and the way these 4 drivers really from second on back have been going at it, I think it's sort of calm down and don't let this number 53 car open up just such a huge gap and let him do whatever he wants to do, especially if you give him a big, huge lead like this and we go into a long green flag run. 3 seconds in the first 20 laps of this race is now what the 53 cars open up over the rest of the field. If we end up getting the feel of a long green flag run, that's going to allow that team to do anything they want as far as strategy is concerned, and that's not a great situation to put yourself in if you guys use your tires up and can't go in the long run.
Michael Conti said on Twitter earlier today that he was whooped. He was beat. He had an early flight from New Jersey back to the Charlotte area, and if he's whooped, he's not showing it right now because he's still coming towards the front of the field. Made that pass on Crowder to move into position number 4, and now setting up Logan Clampett, and the second-place driver Cody Bias, the Junior Motorsports number 8, is on the move, and right to that back bumper he goes in that NASCAR America number 99, and takes a little peek to the outside. Michael Conti looking to get position number 3 away now.
Yeah, but nothing going for Conti just yet. Logan's going to defend down along the bottom once again. Still running that upper groove, though, is Michael. Is actually Ashton Crowder is going to harass the 8 car a little bit. Now to the inside will go the Junior Motorsports number 8 car. Through 1 and 2. Can he find something down there on the bottom? Does it seem like it just yet? Actually, take that back. Good run for Michael down there running that low groove.
Conti going to go to the inside and going to pick up that position, and as Logan Clampett hops to the outside, his teammate almost looked like he was going to go down to the inside and try to pick up a position, but cuts his teammate a little bit of slack. Still flashes the nose there down into corner number 1, but nothing doing as the caution flag flies for the first time this evening on lap number 22.
So first caution of the night is going to erase Ryan Luza's lead. I believe it's actually his teammate 63, Timmy Hill, may have been one of the cars, but nope, I take that back. He was stopped before the accident, and then actually caused it. Who was it? I believe it was the 79 car.
33 of Ben Nelson on the screen with a little bit of damage, and Timmy Hill got into the back of him, but it happened in front of him. The 74 of Taylor Hurst going around, a part of that, and we'll get one more look at it here, but right in front of those guys battling for position, and it doesn't matter where we're looking, Randy, whether it's at the front or at the back. You see the 79 car getting a little help there. That's Nick Shelton with the 74 of Taylor Hurst. Doesn't matter if they're battling in the middle of the pack, near the back of the pack. It's still a position. These guys want to go hard for each and every spot on this racetrack. And it just shows right there, a little bit of contact going around, and that'll bring out our first caution flag of the evening, and it'll bring everybody down to pit road 2.
Yep, we should see the entire field on pit road. 24 laps will run. That's going to be 4 tires and fuel for sure. But we've seen mistakes on pit road plague drivers in some of these early races. Let's see if that happens again. Ryan Luza seems like he's perfectly into his box. 4 tires and fuel going on the 53.
He'll get service on his race car, and for those that are on pit road, it looks like everybody, for the most part, at least up near the front, is taking 4 tires and fuel, and Luza will win the race off of pit road. It looks like Clampett may have got second place around Conti. Cody Bias going to lose a little bit of ground on pit road, and then Ashton Crowder completes your top 5 of those that came down onto pit road, and I think the pace car was fairly lonely out there, Randy, so everybody taking this opportunity early to get tires and fuel. And when we look at the trends to this race, we mentioned it off the top, we've seen some races where we've had an abundance of caution flags here at Richmond. We've seen a couple of races where we've had only 2 cautions. I remember a pro race back here in 13 going green to checkered without a caution. So it's just a matter of how you set up on the pit box and how these car chiefs and crew chiefs have it mapped out. We mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago about Michael Conti's crew chief, Brandon Hastings, having all those scenarios played out. If something happens, if a caution flag comes out here, they do this. And I'm sure with Richmond being as unpredictable as it has been in this series, I'm sure they're going through all those scenarios now.
Oh, they definitely are. There's definitely going to be teams and drivers really thinking about what's going on as we take a look out of the windshield from that number 17 Roush Fenway Racing car driven by Michael Guest. And, you know, a big part of it, Tim, it doesn't even matter what you do to the setup, what the car chiefs and crew chiefs have organized. It all, on the end of the day, comes down to the drivers. And Richmond being a short track, if the track sort of single grooves out really quickly, if drivers really can't make a second line work, we're likely going to see some long racing. But the way the racing's gone tonight, it seems like you can just get trapped side by side and get frustrated, and that can be the big indicator and really the big problem for what brings out yellows. Drivers start getting frustrated. I think the chances of a yellow get much, much higher as we're getting ready to go back to green here on lap 26.
Yeah, quick caution. Everything's all cleaned up. All 38 drivers that started are still on the racetrack and still on the lead lap at this point. Taylor Hurst just got back out on the racetrack after fixing some of the damage to his number 74. The pace car will peel off here, and Ryan Luza in command once again, and once again he is gone quickly. Green flag flies. We're back underway to complete lap number 26, and side by side behind him, Casey Kerwin gets to the inside and tries to pick up some spots he might have lost on the first start of this race.
So let's see what that 14 car can do. He's locked down on the bottom, though, but I think if I'm the 14 car, I need to aggressively get up top as Conti is fighting with Logan Clampett to get that second spot back. Michael's got a good run on the bottom, and he'll nose out in front of Logan by about half a tenth, and he'll take it into 1 and 2. I think Logan made that a little bit easy on the 8.
In the top 5, we'll get single file back to Jake Nichols in the number 20. So everybody that was running up there, Michael Conti, Logan Clampett, Ashton Crowder, get back to single file racing early. Nichols will pull away from Casey Kerwin, who is now sees that battle behind him. That'll be the 24 of Cody Bias and the 36. Oh, little contact there between Michael Guest and Cody Bias as they get it, well, they don't get it straightened away. Caution flag will fly. It almost looked like for a moment that Cody Bias had that thing saved and just couldn't get it off of traffic. You see the 18 of Bobby Zielinski to the inside with a little bit of damage.
That 18 car did not have a great run, like we said last season. Very up and down race here for him, and unfortunate there for Bias. Just loses that car coming off of turn 2, spins in front of the field, and well, there's a quick caution once again. So the track looks racy, Tim, especially on fresh tires. Seems like you can run the bottom or run the top, but when things start getting aggressive, these little incidents can happen. Just a little bit of touch actually from that 24 car from the rear, and that basically sends them around. Now, though, I think is going to be a more interesting question. We only ran a few laps, but as hard as this place I think could be on tires, I think we might see a couple cars, at least in the deeper part of the field, might consider coming down pit road, if for nothing else, just a few extra laps of fuel.
I see Cody Bias heading down towards pit road, get some of that damage repaired on that race car, but for the most part up in front, it looks like, Randy, everybody's staying out on the racing surface and nobody really playing a gamble, at least in the top 15 or so. There's a few drivers in the back of the field that have opted to come down, but for the most part, everybody is staying out on this racetrack, and Ryan Luza will once again have an opportunity to step out away from this field with Michael Conti to his outside now. Luza has been good on these 2 starts of this race. We'll see what he can do and try to pick up a third really good jump when we go back to green flag racing and get that advantage again.
Yeah, I mean, the 53 being the control car for the restarts, obviously Ryan has all the advantage coming to them, but I'm going to be honest, I don't think he really needs it. Even if, say, the 8 of Michael Conti gets a good start, he's probably not going to be able to maintain the overlap with Ryan through 1 and 2. And honestly, I think a driver of like Michael Conti, he's not going to really want to maintain that overlap. He'd rather just get single file and start logging some laps up here, even if that means settling into the 2nd spot, especially because we're less than 40 laps into a 200-lap race. But I think flat out, as long as Ryan can get clear, I think he's got more than enough speed to pretty much drive away from these guys the way it goes and sits right now.
You got some drivers hanging out on the back end of the top 10. We saw Michael Guest there, had a little bit of contact with Cody Bias to bring out that caution flag. Right behind him, Garrett Lowe in the 28. Ray Alfala has made his way up into the top 10, and Keegan Leahy all the way back from 32nd position on the grid up to position at number 11. But when I was doing my research, looking back at some of these races, we've seen some names that have really made a name for themselves in this series at Richmond. You look back to 2014, Adam Gilliland had a top 5 run here in second. Guys like Patrick Crabtree, Ryan Lowe, and Taylor Hurst have top 5 runs here, and you can talk about a guy like Taylor Hurst and Ryan Lowe have an opportunity once again to try and rekindle some of the Richmond magic that they've had before. And obviously Taylor not having a great start to this race, but there's still plenty of laps to go, working lap number 33 and getting ready to come back to green. Randy?
Yeah, a lot of laps to go, and maintaining the lead lap status is going to be huge. He may not have the pace right now, but I guarantee you we're going to see some bigger incidents once we get a little bit deeper into this thing, and so him staying in this is going to be vastly important for him in the points when we get ready to go green.
As they come out of corner number 4 once again, Ryan Luza on the hammer quickly. Green flag flies, and everybody will try to shuffle their way into corner number 1, and we were 3 wide for a moment around 8th place as those guys exchange some positions. Shearburn will fall back 1. Looks like Michael Guest will move up 1, and Garrett Lowe was the driver on the move. I think he picked up 3 positions as Ray Alfala and Keegan Leahy play a little bumper tag off of 4.
Contact up and down the field as your top 2 are single file, but the rest of the field pretty much 2 by 2 by 2 by 2. As you see the 2 teammates of Clampett and Crowder, they're going to fight coming off of turn 2 and down the back straightaway, and Logan's going to take that spot away. The 20 of Jake Nichols still a part of that as well. The 28 of Garrett Lowe and the 14 of Casey Kerwin, they're going to go at it down the front straightaway across the stripe. Casey cannot get off that bottom groove, and let's see if the 28 has something up there. They've had 1 trip to come down pit road. It looks like that 14 has found something on the bottom.
Garrett Lowe has been on the move from 18th position, battling now for what will be a top 5 position on the top line, bringing Michael Guest along with him. Sparks flying off of corner number 4 from Garrett Lowe as he tries to battle with Shearburn to the inside. And don't look now, here comes the Motorcraft Ford of Ray Alfala trying to pick up 1 more position as they go down the back straightaway. Looks like Lowe has this battle done with Shearburn. Not yet. He goes back to the inside to Shearburn, and they'll duke it out 1 more time for that position.
Ray Alfala and Michael Guest both getting and wanting to be a part of this fight. Down to the bottom once again, we'll go to 36 of Chris Shearburn. Garrett Lowe will try to run the top here off of turn 2 and in towards turn 3. He's going to pick that spot up just about. He cannot quite get clear. Shearburn can really drive that car deep on the entry into the corner.
Chris doing everything that he can to make sure he doesn't lose that position. Garrett Lowe on the outside. He has a quick race car. He's picked up positions this evening. He wants to go a little bit further, but has to shake the 36. I think he did it there down the back straightaway. Move in front of Shearburn, and now Shearburn already goes to the outside line trying to pick up that spot as they go down the front straightaway. Garrett Lowe will pick up that 7th place position and try to move himself a little bit closer towards the front of the field.
But Shearburns, I think his woes aren't going to be done just yet. He still has Michael Guest and Ray Alfala closely behind, but actually he's doing a good job trying to attack the rear of that 28 of Garrett Lowe, as Alfala is going to work the bottom on Michael Guest. Can the dominant driver in this series make this bottom groove work? And caution's going to fly.
So the yellow flag will fly once again for the 3rd time here this evening as Ray Alfala was looking to pick up that position, and it looks like it might be Casey Tucker in the number 19 to bring out the caution flag once again. You'll take a look at it on the race spot replay, and to the inside of Timmy Hill and Nick Shelton, and just loops it all by his lonesome. Coming out of corner number 4, car stepped away in the rear end, and that'll bring out our 3rd caution flag of the evening. Tough break for Casey Tucker, and you can see him work on the wheel here as he comes out of corner number 4, and that thing, he just gets away from him.
Yeah, we talked about the short track package for these guys, the fact that we're re-upping the horsepower here, Tim, and does that play a factor to that spin? That looks like a pretty traditional picking up the throttle and getting just rear wheel spin.
So the caution flag will fly once again, and Ryan Luza going to lead this field behind the pace car. I was about to say down pit road, Evan, but looks like for the most part those guys up in front staying out on this caution flag until about 10th place or so. We've got some takers.
Yeah, you can see your lead group there come out of the corner there. They're going to stay behind the pace cars. So 3rd caution flag deep into this race. And your race leaders want to stay out and defend that track position. Randy, can't say I'm all that surprised. Luz is really enjoying that clean air. And, you talk about the challenges of a 3/4 mile short track like Richmond. Track position key. I know it's still early as we pace at lap 43 at 200. But I think all those drivers up front, Conti, the whole gang, like it where they sit.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, fuel and track position is really going to be the big key here, especially with the racing we've seen thus far. Can make up moves, but it can be very difficult, especially you get yourself locked down in that field. And no one wants to be that guy who comes down from the head of the field and sees basically the rest of everyone else side, you know what, we're going to stay out, or even the opposite. You stay out and see everyone come down pit road. So not surprised to see everyone stay out here. No one really wanted to throw their track position away.
And while we pace under the caution flag here at Richmond, do want to welcome a special guest up and into the Race Spot TV booth. That is Steve Letarte, analyst for NASCAR on NBC. And as we noted 2 weeks ago at our last race at Texas, one of the newest team owners in this series. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. This has been exciting to watch. I've been watching Chris up front there trying to work traffic. It's been a good race so far.
Currently, you've been around this sport for a long time, notably crew chief for Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr. now in your current role as an analyst with NBC. But I got to ask you, for all of that experience in the sport and all those years, this eNASCAR and this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze series really making headways as we celebrate this season what is our 10th year of competition. You've joined the ranks with some of your fellow competitors over the years as a team owner. Just tell us about that transition and why you wanted to get involved.
Well, I think what this series is and what iRacing as a whole has done is really opened so many opportunities when you see racing. I love racing because I've grown up in it. I had the opportunity to go to racetracks since I was a little kid, and I think what this series can do as far as people watching and what the iRacing platform does is allow many more people across the country to get to experience what racing is all about. Hopefully we'll fall in love, but you forget that these guys aren't out in the track. The race is so captivating. It's so much fun to watch.
We've had some exciting races the last couple of weeks, and a restart due up here where Ryan Luza is going to take off and get going, so we get back in green flag conditions just shy of a quarter of the way through this. A lot of the guys, though, in this race that we're seeing competing at this level, some have some real-life experience at their local short track, some of them none. They're very solely focused on finding a career through the eNASCAR ranks. How do you see iRacing and esports helping NASCAR find new talent and helping to grow the sport?
Well, I think what you said is exactly right. I mean, what these guys are able to do from a console, from their computer, from their sim, whatever they have set up, is a lot easier than perhaps going to a racetrack if you don't live in the right area. So I think this allows teams to search all edges of the country to find the most talented people, because I can attest, I'm an iRacer myself, and talent matters because I don't have very much and I can't keep up with these guys.
Well, I know I was just telling you about how some of your fellow competitors are in on the mix as well, and truthfully, you got to be honest with us. Now that you have your own iRacing team here with Nathan Lyon and Chris Yearburn flying that Letard Esports flag, how much of this season for the 13 or so races that we still have to go is going to be rubbing it in Dale, Parker, and Jeff's face, because you're competing head-to-head with them, so I'm sure that's fun.
Oh, that's going to be a blast. I mean, that's what racing is all about, is the competition side of it. I'm watching right here to see what these tires do. The field split here on this last yellow, it seems, and Chris had some track position, chose to come in and take some tires, and now side by side with his team car there. It gets me a little concerned, but that's why we love having Chris on board. So much experience in this type of car, in this type of series, that you don't see him make a lot of mistakes, doesn't really put many fenders wrong as he's looking a little 3 wide right here. This could get exciting. I've seen this move before, not always work out well.
He got squeezed a little bit there, but they will stay 2x2. The good news is it is a short track, and I'm sure some of the virtual sheet metal here is going to get torn up. It certainly costs a lot less, though, than a Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series car. You mentioned the pit strategy there. 3 early yellows. I don't think that's necessarily all that much of a surprise for a racetrack like this. Your race leaders staying out. You mentioned Chris and some of the other drivers towards the middle of the pack coming in and trying to stay on those fresh tires just to kind of put that crew chief hat back on. What are you thinking about this race so far strategy-wise with the top group and pretty much everybody else on a split call there?
Well, that is Richmond. We're going to see that again Saturday night. Normally there's a bunch of yellows and then a long green flag run. We'll see if we get that long green flag run here. If we do, then those tires should pay off for Chris and the other cars that chose to come to pit road. And then when it comes to the last 50 or 75 laps, there's usually another batch of yellows, and you just have to pick the correct yellow to pit on. I'm telling you, this e-racing is just like real life. If you don't pit on the right lap, it's very difficult. But right now, Nathan Lyons is making a move, running the bottom of the racetrack. His car actually seems to be better the longer we get into this race.
And one of the biggest changes in recent years as iRacing continues to get closer and closer to the real-life product, of course, the dynamic sky. I know Tim mentioned that right off at the start. We started with a little bit of sun. The lights are going to be coming on, and we're going to be racing into the night, so track temps are going to go down. Of course, more rubber is going to get continuously put down onto the racetrack. I don't think it's any surprise, though, Steve. There's a lot of people excited about this weekend's race, and as well on our sim side of things. Richmond has been a track that's been on our calendar year after year. Why do you think it's just such an attractive race for not only the competitors who love racing on it, but it's a good race to tune into as well?
It's a wonderful race, and I really think it comes down to the size of racetrack. 3/4 of a mile, I think, is a perfect size short track for these heavy stock cars that they run at the cup level. As you see right here, Nathan's working up one lane. That's another thing that Richmond opens up, this wide entry into turn 1. You can go up. This is almost 2 lanes up, dime in the corner, turn back to the bottom. I mean, this is what makes Richmond so special as we see a yellow on the racetrack.
You see the replay right there on the Race Spot TV second look. It looks like Dylan Duval involved in this one. To turn number 4, might have had a little bit of help, gets around. And I think Malik Ray also ends up down in the grass. A couple of other drivers behind that who really had nothing to do with the initial piece of contact also get a little bit of damage. Looks like that 42 machine's going to be okay. Going to be able to continue. I don't think aero necessarily a huge factor at a racetrack like this. But I'm sure that our drivers have expected this race to, be one of attrition. And for the race leaders who stayed out the last time, now they're all going to come down to the pit lane, get service. Probably going to be a 4-tire call for the cars up front. Curious to see if anybody mid-pack now stays out, but I think this time through, Steve, a little bit of a longer run, and I think the consensus is most cars are pitting.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I thought we'd have a few guys stay out a little bit farther back in the pack. We see 2 or 3 stay on the racetrack. So now it'll be interesting to see, how important these new tires are. But, I mean, this is short track racing. It's so much fun to watch. It's really so much fun to be a part of. I'm very thankful I have the opportunity to have a couple cars in this race. And these drivers are great. I've had conversations with how they approach these races, how they prepare. And I think they're looking forward to the short track where you perhaps don't need as much drafting help. I think it was a little bit easier. You can go and do a little bit more testing on your own.
Exactly like we have seen drivers in the Cup Series over the last couple of weeks now adjust to the new 2019 rules package. Exact same thing here on iRacing. Of course, the shorter track under a mile distance means that we get to go racing with the higher horsepower, but these cars, you see the number 62 Chevy Camaro leading, again, as close as you are going to get to the real-life product in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series, and it has been a ton of fun. We have a lot of races still to go, Steve, and I know that certainly your team is going to be a formidable force. You were able to get two good drivers there with Nathan Lyon and Chris Shearburn both being able to join you on the team, and I'm sure you'd like to best Burton Klickerman and give Junior Motorsports a run for their money as this race continues to work on, but your drivers have had a couple of good results, I think, thus far. I think maybe a couple of good finishes got taken away from them from bad luck, but in the end of the day, I think that's all racing, and as we continue to work into 2019, it'll be fun to see what they can do, maybe new partners as well that continue to be involved, and it's been a ton of fun, I know, on our side of things to see all of the NASCAR teams really get on board for this 2019 campaign as the lights go out on the pace car. Yeah,
it's a great platform, a great program, a great series. The drivers, so professional. You know, I spoke to both of these guys about how they prepare for the races and, you know, how they approach the season. Very impressed with the work that went in. Setups matter in this series as much as they do in the real world, right? I mean, if you don't have a fast car, it doesn't matter how talented you are. And you mentioned attrition, patience. You know, 200 laps is a great distance, right? It's short enough to be exciting, long enough that you have to be patient. We'll see how this restart goes right here, and we'll see what kind of strategy it is. I'm just glad Nathan has a little track position. Hopefully he can keep it right here.
He saw him stay out, get that track position, so he restarted third as we went on board with him. Green flag back in the air, 60 laps complete, still 140 laps to go from the virtual Richmond Raceway, and a good side-by-side battle right now. That's the 17 machine to his right-hand side, and you can see, of course, throughout the pack, no separation, 2-3 wide all the way throughout pretty much all of the field. A little bit of a deeper look, there's Michael Conti. He sits 4th or 5th in line on the bottom of the racetrack, and off of these restarts, certainly a good opportunity for your drivers to get up and on the wheel, to gain some track position, but it is a different mentality, Steve, versus somebody who comes down to the pit lane, gets tires, and wants to get a lot of spots quickly before those tires balance out in comparison to some of the drivers who stay out and they're really playing defense up front.
Yeah, defense and patience. Right here, Michael Conti on the bottom. That's a tough place to be. So difficult to get power down. We see very easily to spin out off from turn 4, and then right here you can't push up in the middle of the racetrack. Have a little bit of patience, roll the middle, then you're just going to see how much momentum the top lane carries on corner exit. If you're going to make ground on the bottom, which Michael's doing a nice job of doing, it's inches at a time, not feet at a time. He's rolling the corner though very, very well. Impressive run so far for the 8 car.
And that was a good shot there as they went through 3 to 4 and back across the start-finish line this time. If you look towards the bottom of the racetrack, I was talking about the dynamic track surface. Right in the line of all those cars at the bottom, you can actually see that darker color as more rubber gets put down. It is going to make that inside line a more viable option. And then, of course, as that spreads out over the course of the night, going to give opportunities right there. Like you see the 17 on the outside of the racetrack, be able to keep it there. This has been a pretty good fight side by side here for what is going to be now 3rd and 4th position, and even further up now in front of them, here comes the number 99 car to the inside in turn 3, and a challenge for the point as Logan Clampett going to put his machine up there with a nice move working on the bottom of the racetrack. Certainly looks like both lanes an option at this time.
Yeah, that's short track racing, that's Richmond, that's this series. It shows the talent of the drivers to be able to pull these moves off. Now the 62 just has to settle in. When you lose that track position, you really have to settle in, not continue to burn up the rear tires. I'm sure Parker Klickerman somewhere has a big smile on his face as his car takes the lead.
He'll send it off into turn 1 with a little bit of breathing room. You can see the Hornet's Nest behind him. Looks like a lot of the fun sits right there in about 4th or 5th position. And we talk about how this race is played through this big group right there. Ideally, drivers come into a race with an idea of what kind of strategy they want to play out. You mentioned the distance, even at 200 laps, not quite the distance they're going to be seeing this upcoming weekend with the Monster Energy cars, but about 50% of the total race length is what we see here on on Tuesday nights with this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. At the start of the night, you got a very clear strategy, if this thing goes green, on what you want the play to be, and just as we talk about how you would like things to go, a caution flag comes out. Every single time one of these happen, it's certainly going to recalculate the driver's strategy. This issue on the outside of the racetrack looks like the 36 machine. I even see the 88 machine of Davies around. The 3 of Guerrilla involved in that one also. So a caution flag comes out. One thing that, maybe people not necessarily close to this esports and this eNASCAR realm will know is, of course, not only are the people behind the wheel of these cars people at their home with anything as basic as an entry-level wheel to a very serious sim rig competing in all these cars, but also, Steve, and even your team included, all these drivers have an actual person in the sim with them acting as a crew chief, an actual person in the sim with them as well acting as a spotter. So at minimum, most of the cars out there, that's a team of 2, 3, 4 people in constant communication. All of that just race day alone, not even counting all the testing and the R&D that goes into the setups, in the week and a half in between races.
Yeah, the amount of track time is really impressive. I've had that discussion with both of my drivers. We talked a lot about preparation. You talked about this being a short track. Well, with the new package, we saw drafting at Texas, drafting at Fontana. What a crazy finish out there at Auto Club Speedway. So to your point, it's iRacing at its best, but it is as close to real life as I've ever seen it. I've been racing now since probably 2009, 10, 11-ish myself, and I love what it is. But this series really, for an iRacer, this series is it, right? Just like going to your local Saturday night short track and then watching the big guys on Sunday. Well, this is the big guys. These are the best of the best. They're in this PEAK series for a reason.
And this 10th season is the biggest season we've ever had of this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Not only tonight alone is there an $850 purse, up for grabs, $500 to the winner, $250 to second, and $100 for third. But our overall prize pool for this season is $112,000, $40,000 of which goes to our eventual series champion. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. That's still a long way away. Homestead coming at us in mid-October for the season finale. So not only do these drivers take it very seriously because this is their equivalency, as you say, to going out and racing their car at their track on the weekend, but there's a lot on the line this season, which I'm sure makes it more nerve-wracking and also more exciting for the guys behind the wheel. Yeah, more nerve-wracking, more exciting, and I really think the the amount of people watching, when you look at social media, the buzz on social media every time one of these races are going on is great. Obviously, a little bit of trash talking between the different team owners. Even the race teams I see get on one another, whether it's the Roush Fenway camp or the Joe Gibbs Racing camp. Junior Motorsports gets in the mix. It's just great. It's great to see the entire sport as a whole kind of come together. We now have action at Richmond this weekend with the real cars. We have action on Tuesday night at the virtual raceway. There's just so many options for a race fan. I think that's what racing's all about, is try to deliver options for the fans to enjoy. Restart for Logan DeClampett. He gets out of the way, so we go back green flag racing at lap number 74. And it is fun that we're at the virtual Richmond Raceway this week. And of course, our real-life counterparts are going racing there this weekend because Richmond Raceway has also been a group that's been very involved. Their Richmond Raceway esports team fielded both Jimmy Mullis and Malik Ray, one of the 15 teams that are competing full-time in this 2019 campaign. Clampett out in front is clear of the drama. It seems like Steve, second or third restart in a row. P2 is where all the fun is. Outside this time, Michael Conti's able to get up and around the 28 machine of Garrett Lowe. So Conti continues to pick his way forward, defending the number 2 spot. Yeah, the leader just gets such a good launch out of the restart zone. He then has both lanes to work with. Everywhere else it's 2 and even 3 wide, and you see the patience of these guys. You cannot lean on each other. We're not even halfway yet. You have to concede the position. Save your tires. Make sure you have some grip as this race wears on. This portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by PEAK Antifreeze, the official antifreeze of the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Company yellows early through this one, but of the 38 cars who started, 37 of them still on track. In fact, all of them on track, still scored on the lead lap. Only Nicholas Shelton has had to bring his car behind the wall, so he will finish shotgun on the field way back in that number 38 position as we slowly tiptoe towards the the halfway point, really starting to see the lights come on here and transition into that night mode. It'll be fun to see if some drivers, as they continue to make adjustments throughout the race, if the cars are going to drive differently in the late evening, or I guess I should say late afternoon into the evening conditions. I know that's certainly always a challenge as a crew chief on iRacing, and in your experience in real life, Steve, try to make the car work on both ends of that.
Yeah, well, what I've learned at Richmond is if you're really, really good when the sun's out, you better start making adjustments, because when the sun sets, the track normally gets very, very tight in the middle. I think some of it's that rubber going down the racetrack. As you mentioned, you already see the lower lane darkening up. And just as the track cools, I think the lap times get a little bit better. The drivers have a tendency to overdrive entry. That makes the middle tighter. As the middle gets tighter, it makes drive off even worse. Even though you know it's coming, it's very hard to kind of guess which way you need to go with the chassis.
Watch a battle right now as Zach Novak fighting with Michael Guest. Of course, those are some familiar-looking race cars. The Roush Fenway entries side by side. They fight for 10th and 11th. And at a short track, you're certainly going to be aggressive with one another. Doesn't matter if you're a teammate or not, but I guess that's the cardinal rule, is don't get into your teammate. Those two get along, and that battle's able to exchange easy enough. Out the back of Novak, you see the 90 of Malik Ray there as well in his Sunoco Racing Toyota. This mid-pack group, I'm sure they're having a real rough night. We go on board with your Latardi sports driver and Nathan Lyon. He's on the outside of the racetrack. Not that Logan Clampett has an easy job up front. Michael Conti's chasing him down. We may be talking about a battle for the race lead here in just a little bit, but at least up front you're able to get that bit of separation. Here mid-pack, when you're stuck too wide and you can't get away, you know, these 20-25 lap runs are just excruciating for these guys. Elbows up, they're certainly tense, and that's why half the time we talk to these drivers post-race after, and they're worn out after a sim race.
Oh, it can be exhausting because there's just no room for error. I mean, the traffic is on top of you. Any slip high, any jump on the throttle a little too hard, you could spin out. I mean, these things are very difficult to drive, and these guys make it look easy. I can assure anyone who's watching, log on, go on iRacing, try to make laps at Richmond yourself. It's nowhere near as easy as these drivers are making it look.
And fun seeing a lot of the drivers in the real-life ranks of NASCAR get involved in the service. Of course, a lot of them are regular members. And we talk a lot about Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jeter Motorsports, competing the first ever winner in this series way back in its inaugural season. Dale Jr. was actually the race winner from Daytona International Speedway, so an active member. A lot of drivers, of course, very notably, somebody like a William Byron, kind of starting their career and making their way into the ranks through the iRacing.com service before you make that transition to obviously getting that necessary real-life time. And, you know, Tim, we've seen some great action so far this evening, but I think Michael Conti making that charge up from P8 is ready to make some noise. Looked outside on Clampett there, wasn't able to make it happen, and now he will try to find a way through as we got about 2, 3, 4 cars actually stacked up in a battle for P1.
And just behind those top two, Keegan Leahy and that number 53 of Ryan Luza, your top two in the point standings. We talked about off the hop that those drivers were starting on opposite ends of the grid, and all of a sudden they find themselves battling for position number 3. Differing pit strategies, but now Leahy to the inside, sporting a little bit of damage. And as I say that, there goes Conti to the inside, little sideways at a corner number 4. We'll have to regroup and try to take it away again from Logan Clampett.
You see Leahy on the inside of Luza. Luza's been up front for a lot of this one, and he wants to get going. He wants to get back up to the front. And on that note, Steve, we'll also let you jet out of here as we're about halfway through this race. But we're very appreciative of your time. Thanks for joining us tonight in the booth. And again, welcome to the series. I hope that your drivers have a lot of success for the rest of the season and often into the future. We're excited to see where this eNASCAR thing goes.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It has been a great broadcast to watch, a great race to watch. The series is spectacular. I'm excited to be a part of it, as is everyone I've talked to, whether it's from Dale Jr. or Parker Kligerman, Jeff Burton, so many of us part of it. We're excited to be a part of it. What you guys are doing is really, really impressive, and more than anything, it's just great to watch. It makes for a great Tuesday night.
You know him as a former crew chief for Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt Jr., an analyst at NBC. We know him as the team owner of Latardi Sports for Nathan Lyon and Chris Shearbird. Steve Letarte joining us in the Race Spot TV booth. Big thanks to him for giving us some time this evening and just talk some eNASCAR action, as this race has certainly been fun. And 8 laps away for the halfway point. It's only going to get better, Randy, as this battle up front continues. P3's where it at now. And I think Keegan Leahy's doing a good job making some headway on the bottom. He's been able to get a nose on the inside of the 8 at Conti. We'll see if this goes anywhere. These top 4, though, putting some distance, though, on 5th on back.
They have. Garrett Lowe's dropped back just a little bit, but you say the fight's for 3rd. I'd say the fight's for 1st through 4th at the moment because of the 99 and Logan Clampett not able to stretch a gap on these guys fighting like this. I think when eventually one of these 3 is going to win this battle for 2nd, they should, I think, be able to reel in that 99 and really be able to take it to him. But the 62 of Keegan Leahy just hasn't had the drive off the corner to quite get around the 53 of Ryan Luza. We knew Luza was the best car when he was out in front for really the first 40 laps of this race. Had a 3-second lead at one point within the first 20, and now he just seems to get locked into some dirty air and not quite able to make something of it just yet. Maybe that 8 car of Conti holding him up just a little bit, running that outside, keeping Ryan from really driving to the corner as hard as he can.
And that's all part of the strategy. Certainly try to take space away, that preferred line away from your competitors, but you don't want to do it to the point where you're sacrificing where you want to be. And oh, what a big slide. What a save. Luza got all kinds of out of shape at a turn 4. You saw that huge bobble, and he was about half a foot out of the outside wall with the lapped car to the inside. He will hang on. It'll hurt his bid for the race lead, but could have been a lot worse for the driver of the 53.
And that was Nathan Lyon that came off of pit road, and looks like he's got some new tires on that thing, Evan, because he is jetted by our leaders and got one of those laps back that he lost coming down into pit road. He also has a little bit of right side damage. You see it there just prior to our 4th caution. Got the wall off of corner number 2 and doing what he can to keep that thing on the lead lap and in contention right now, currently being scored as 1 lap down. He's in the free pass position should we get a caution flag, but a close call for Ryan Luza, and he falls back off the hop of the 62 of Keegan Leahy, but still in position number 4 and still well within contention of this one as you ride on board with Michael Guest looking up at the 53.
Michael Guest ends up being the 5th car in what had been a 4-car battle. Luza probably didn't do his Goodyear tires any favors with that big slide, so we'll see if the number 17 machine is going to be able to make this a real 5-way fight. It looked like it was really going to be just a matter of time before those top 4 were on top of each other, and I'm not sure if it's a combination of factors or if it's just that second group of cars was really driving hard to catch up to Clampett, or if he woke up, but the 99 has kind of found a little bit of extra life. That 0.3 of a second advantage he holds is by no means a comfortable gap, but when he had Michael Conti literally on the deck lid, I think he feels a little bit better now. As this time by, it'll be 100 down and 100 to go.
As we reach halfway, it's really the 62 of Keegan Leahy. I think one of the cars to watch through the second half of this race. Started 32nd, runs 3rd after a little bit of pit strategy, and he's matching the times these top 2 are doing, if not putting in quicker ones. It's going to be Ryan Luza has his hands full with that Roush Fenway Racing machine of Michael Guest. So all the fights really in the top 5 up for grabs at the moment as Keegan is trying to keep Michael honest as best as he can.
And that's all you can really hope for, is just keep that constant pressure up. As we cross the halfway point, though, in tonight's Richmond 200, let's take a look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally sanctioned series by NASCAR and many more. At lap number 103, your race leader is the 99 of Logan Clampett. His NASCAR America on NBC SN car is 0.3 up on Michael Conti, who sits in 2nd position. That's a fight with Keegan Leahy right behind him in 3rd. Ryan Luza with a dive to the inside in 4th. Your pole sitter, and Michael Guest, as noted, right behind in the number 5 spot. Not a ton of spacing, though. Blake Reynolds also only a 2nd off for the race lead. He's scored in 6th. Garrett Lowe is 7th. Jake Nichols a little bit further back now, P8. Malik Ray representing the hometown favorites of Richmond Raceway Esports is 9th, and Ray Alfala sits in P10.
And they just swapped that position for P10. Christian Chalner moved from 11th up to position number 10. Adam Benefield having a great run here this evening. He's going to run In 12th place, Ashton Crowder, Ryan Lowe, 13th, 14th. They've been swapping positions back and forth, and Zach Novak completes your top 15 at this point at the halfway in this race. Chris Overland currently in position number 16 as he's swapping positions back and forth with a few drivers there. He's got the 6 car up there of Zach Novak, but Logan Kress, Brandon Cattell, new sponsor on that car this week on the 80, and in your top 20, it's Matt Busa.
To get a little bit deeper down the order here, you have Brian Schoenberg 21st, Corey Vincent in 22nd, Jimmy Mullis 23rd, Jarl T in 24th, Phil Diaz 25th, is Casey Tucker, Michael Garuglia, Eric Smith, Bobby Zelensky, and Timmy Hill rounding out your top 30.
31st position, and again, all of these competitors are still on the lead lap. That's Chris Shearburn. Timmy Hill is 32nd. Dylan Duvall 33rd with Ben Nelson, Brad Davies, and Cody Bias. That'll round out the cars on the lead lap through P36. Nathan Lyon is a lap down in 37th, and we previously noted that Nicholas Shelton had actually gone behind the wall. He has brought that car back out 24 laps down, but still in this race. So all 38 of the cars who started are still on track past halfway. That is a look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com to sign up today. And if you are signed up for a first-time subscription, use the promo code PR-eNASCAR 2019 during your checkout, and you can get your first 3 months of iRacing for just $10. That comes with more than a dozen cars and a dozen tracks for free. Again, PR-eNASCAR 2019. That is valid on new iRacing memberships only. Now, as we work on to the longest green flag stretch of the night nearly, do we start to consider the green flag pit stops maybe on the horizon for the cars up front, as it's now Leahy who has emerged as the challenger on the back of the 99?
Yeah, it completely changes the game here right now, especially with green flag pit stops potentially on the horizon. We get a caution flag here as Keegan Leahy pokes to the inside of the 99 to Logan Clampett. They'll duel it out for that lead position. Keegan Leahy has been busy this evening, started in position number 32, has worked his way up through the field, has a little bit of right side damage after that second caution flag of the evening, but now he'll look to go to the lead on Logan Clampett. It'll get tight here off of corner number 2, but they continue to go at it with Clampett working that inside. And Evan, don't look now, Blake Reynolds is making his way up here.
On the 99, got into the outside wall. Sparks fly off of Logan Clampett's car. Is that going to be the mistake that opens the door for Leahy? Inside on the gas at a 2, yes sir. From 32nd on the grid to the race lead, it is Keegan Leahy now out in front at Richmond at lap 113. Clampett's small mistake was enough for the 62 to get the job done. And now, Randy, here comes the 30. Reynolds just like that into second.
That's a big, costly mistake for the 99 of Logan Clampett. You can see him driving that thing hard off of 2. Big wiggle from that 99 car, and he goes from first to the third in what seems like probably a blink of an eye, and he's not going to be happy with himself over that one. He also have to think, of course, what is that contact with the wall maybe due to the car? I think we just saw that G2 Esports machine of Keegan Leahy have a little bit of a scrape with the outside retaining wall as well. So everyone's starting to push up right against the safer barriers everywhere around this racetrack, trying to get every inch of speed that they possibly can.
And we'll see if Clampett now really starts to fall back. I didn't think that Leahy had him by that much. Certainly he was able to close in, and I think minus the piece of contact with the outside wall, it still would have gone to Leahy eventually. Maybe not this quickly, but as Clampett now really starts to slip back in third, is it going to be Blake Reynolds putting that number 30 machine into the race lead? If he'd be able to do that, of course, one of the newer team-associated drivers, if you will, is a little bit of a later into the season to pick up for Team Dillon Esports. His teammate Benjamin Nelson also competed full-time with him, and he's got an opportunity to lead some laps, but that G2 machine in front of him is going to try to make sure it doesn't happen.
We talked earlier about Richmond Raceway making names with this series and drivers coming up and really making a statement here, and I think Blake Reynolds is doing that. To the inside he goes, just barely enough to get to the inside. Keegan Leahy giving him a lane to the inside, but not enough to get that run off the corner, Evan. He'll try it again here, coming through 3 and 4. Just leaves him about a half lane, enough to get that race car down there, but not enough to make that move off the corner and really get that momentum that the top side has. So keep an eye on that and see if Blake Reynolds can try to find a little more racing room to the inside of Keegan Leahy. But this battle's going to be intense, and Blake Reynolds trying to get up here, get up on the wheel, and get himself a win here this evening at Richmond.
And everybody behind them runs right down on that yellow line, maybe using a little bit of the apron to help those cars rotate, as we're now in full night mode short track racing with 80 laps to go the next time around. Wonder if that third of Machida Reynolds, where his priorities sit, Randy. Do you want to get Keegan right away? Do you push that little bit extra to fight for the clean air, or do you kind of run your own race and be happy with P2 where you are now?
Well, I think that if you're better on the old tires, I think you have to push the issue, do everything you can to pick that spot up. We've seen what track position can do for you here. We've seen how difficult it is to make passes. A couple of the passes we've seen have been basically assisted by drivers making mistakes, scraping the wall, or getting a big bite of oversteer coming off the corner. So if I'm Blake Reynolds, I want to harass that 62 as long as I can, push my old tire advantage as much as I can. Last thing I want to do is put myself in a situation that, you know, if I'm better on old tires but on new tires, I do not want to be behind this 62 car after the pit stop sequence. And remember, we're not out of the realm of possibilities, I think, as far as fuel economy goes, from going the distance on this race on one more stop.
We'll see if that's going to be a factor. Certainly now longest green flag run of the night. More separation between cars and amongst the battles that we've seen at any other point in this Richmond 200. But it is a short track, and we know how drivers tend to get as they get a little bit later on and into these races. This portion of tonight's broadcast brought to you by Blue Def Diesel Exhaust Fluid, certified pure #1 diesel exhaust fluid, as we are watching a good battle for the race lead. But it is very much a two-car breakaway now. Michael Conti may be the next driver into the #3 spot. He's caught up to Logan Clampett, who's 99 machine, kind of limping home now in the later stages of this long run.
As they come by to complete one more lap, you see the 30 of Blake Reynolds closing right into Keegan Leahy to try to mount another charge for that position. Behind them, Logan Clampett's been able to take that third place, or keep that third place position away from Michael Conti. And Evan, we've seen it on the speed shots. Obviously, longest green flag run of the night that we've had is going to produce this racing, as you see that 30 of Blake Reynolds once again peeking to the inside, but not that sense of urgency that we've seen the middle of the pack. There's not a whole lot of that 2 and 3 wide as Bobby Zielinski comes off a pit road. It looks like everybody's found a place to race right now to get into a rhythm, and we're not seeing a whole lot of that 2 and 3 wide that we've seen in the first 75 laps or so of this race.
Yeah, certainly the extra time of these tires and these cars starting to be a little bit more of a handful to get around the racetrack is playing a factor in that. As you do have your groups of 2, 3, 4 cars, whatever it may be, here and there on the board shot. As we watch this battle for the race lead, it's Reynolds looking low into 62. And you want to talk about tires, this is going to be interesting. The 18 machine wants to find a way through. That's Bobby Zielinski, a heavily torn up, I might add, entry on the outside. The number 18 Interstate Batteries entry for JGR is going to go on the outside. That is what fresh tires looks like. And again, that a completely different strategy. Nothing that your race leaders need to be too concerned about.
Yeah, but I will say Keegan Leahy's probably taking that into account, because we know that those two cars work together. You see the VRS decals both on that G2 machine driven by Blake Reynolds, as well as on that number 18 JGR racing car driven by Bobby Zielinski. So maybe a little communication between those two drivers saying, hey, look, this is how much quicker the new tires are. So will it maybe trigger a trip down pit road? It's going to be interesting to see. That said, I think Keegan, if anyone's going to go long, it's going to be these guys out in front, Evan, because track position has just been so important tonight. And yeah, the undercut strategy might be able to work in this situation if you come down a handful of laps earlier, because you're not adding a full entire pit stop like we saw last week. But I still think you want to have that track position, and if you get caught out with a yellow here, it's pretty much game over.
And that's what kind of scares drivers from being the first to make the call. If it's a clear-cut decision where you're not going to be able to make it on fuel and everybody's pretty much in agreement, we're going to have to come down and get fuel and tires. And the only question really in the air is, well, what kind of interval are we going to come in? We're coming in 5 laps or 10 laps. Then maybe you go for the short pit, because oftentimes if you're a gambler and you're the aggressive one, that's the call you go for. You want to get off the old tires, onto the new tires ASAP. In this case, though, it's a great point by Randy Tim that, without that certainty, I don't know if you risk the track position, kind of like what we saw with the race leaders about 30, 40 laps into this race, not coming down to the pit lane when, everybody at the back did. They wanted to protect that track position. If they felt like that was important with 170 laps left in this race, certainly it's important with 70 left.
And with this race being unpredictable, we've seen a handful of cautions in the first 100 laps of this race, and then we've seen some green flag racing here in the second half. Do you really want to get off sequence and risk that if a caution flag does come out and it puts yourself behind the 8 ball and potentially a couple of laps down as you see the sparks flying once again? The 62 of Keegan Leahy taking that wide entry down into corner number 1 and continues to add on a little bit as he's going to come down to pit road potentially here this time. Your top 2 are both coming down onto pit road here at the end of 134, and Logan Clamp are going to follow him down.
And at the same time, so it's going to be a question of who's going to execute this better. Keegan Leahy, after qualifying 32nd, is going to pit way before and much shorter onto the pit lane. But you saw how many cars had dove down to the pit lane. There was a ton of them in for service. Right side's up, left side's up. It is going to be a 4-tire decision for race leader Keegan Leahy. You watch some of the action on the racetrack, but let's watch as they blend back out and onto the racetrack. It looks like the 62 is going to stay in front of Blake Reynolds. So it is still G2 Esports atop the Team Dillon Esports entry of Blake Reynolds, but they are not much further apart than they came down to the pit lane, and they're going to find themselves now in the middle of other battles for position as all of a sudden they're the lap cars.
Yeah, now they're going to be the ones really struggling here, aren't they, as they come out and deal with all of this traffic. So how they actually get up and blend into the running order is going to be, I think, difficult for them. Still a bunch of cars yet to come down pit road as well, and that's going to be difficult because all those drivers who have not been having a great run tonight, Evan, they're going to sort of play the track position game as well. So the likes of Zach Novak, Diaz, Jimmy Mullis, Michael Griglia, Chris Shearburn, a lot of those cars that have sort of been on the lower end of speed through the second half of this race, they're going to try best as they can to maybe catch a caution here and, potentially turn their night around through the second half of this race if they can catch an incident and then just essentially flip the track position around. The 6 of Zach Novak, though, he peels down on a pit road.
He dives on to pit road. He's got some company down there with him. We're 3 wide on track with a mix of lapped cars and lead lap cars. Ray Alfalo was the one who was squeezed to the right. He's still 3 wide now. This time the 27 is way out on the outside. So all of this is what makes this probably one of the most nail-biting moments of the race, is you've got so many different cars battling different drivers on different tires, different strategy. It's kind of hard to focus on everything that's going on around you. It would not take a lot for a small mistake to snowball into something big here. So all these drivers got to be on the top of their game right now.
And Evan, your leader is Phil Diaz, and he hasn't been able to get to the inside to come down onto pit road, even if he wanted to. He's had a steady stream of drivers to the inside, including the former 2 leaders of this race, as they've worked their way by Keegan Leahy and Blake Reynolds, and they've already worked their way up to 10th place as Phil Diaz. Even if he was trying to find a way down here, Evan, he can't get down here. There goes the 17 of Michael Guest. He's going to be 3 wide on the outside as Ray Alfalo and Ryan Luza work their way through. So the Mode Motorsports driver still out on the racetrack and leading a few laps here. Brian Schoenberg scored in position number 2, and looks like Dylan Duval, after his early misfortune, scored in 3rd, trying to change his luck and turn this race around.
18 was almost around off of 2.
That's Bobby Zelensky. That's the car that was really damaged earlier. You see him there, and there was contact. RaceBot TV replay will show it. A faster Logan Clampett trying to go by on the inside. There's the touch, and not only is Zelensky lucky to save that car, but then on to Clampett's lucky that he didn't get turned, Randy, when the 18 kind of corrected it right there on his right rear. That's exactly what I was talking about, with something small turning into something big. It didn't, and now a caution flag at lap 141 to completely change this race.
Looks like it's the 14 of Casey Kerwin involved. I think this was off of turn 2 as well. Just 1 lap later. So we dodge a bullet, and the next later, that bullet actually finds its mark. As what happened here, the 14, I think, had some help. I think it may have been Brandon Cattell who may have dumped that 14 car a little bit off of turn 2, and that's how it looks to me. The 80 just gets all over the 14 on corner exit, keeps his foot in it, and that results in Casey ended up facing the wrong way.
But you saw right there, I think the onboard was a great shot that 14 to Kerwin drove it in hard into the corner. It was a late dive down, made it 3 wide. So not only did I think the 80 not appreciate that, but he slid up on his nose. And Cattell, I'm thinking, is, you know, if you slide up in front of me and get on my nose, then I'm not going to lift for you. I'm taking the corner like I normally would. And I don't think there's any question that the 80 machine of Cattell just dumped Casey Kerwin. I think you saw why he felt like that was a reasonable response. And there's your short track tempers, but that's a very costly caution for a lot of the drivers in this field.
Oh, it's a great time caution for guys like Phil Diaz, Brian Schoenberg, Dylan Duval, our Fontana winner, Eric Smith, Cody Bias, moving back up there in the scoring pylon. Timmy Hill was up there in the top 10 on that exchange as Phil Diaz has already completed his service and back out onto the racetrack. So it's not a good time to caution for some, as you see a lot of the drivers that just recently came down pit road behind the pace car waiting to get the wave around and get back on the tail end of the lead lap. It's good for some, Evan. It's not good for others, and that's what we love about this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Strategy comes into play, and we could see some very entertaining restarts here coming up. But how about that Motorsports team? Cody Bias ran strong earlier this evening up in the top 5 and had a little bit of misfortune, and now Phil Diaz up near the front of the field.
Unfortunately, it looks like most of the drivers that have been able to get deep enough into that cycle that it's not going to hurt, you know, a Leahy or a Luza. Those were the two that you immediately think of because just a handful of laps ago, Randy, they were a lap down after pitting. Enough cars had cycled through that they're actually going to go all the way back up to the front. You see Keegan Leahy scored as your race leader. No change there. It'll be Luza second, Clampett third, with Challoner and Lowe rounding out your top 5 competitors. So none of them really get hurt too much by that. But there are, I think, just as many drivers that on the back end of that strategy coming down to the pit lane, topping off on tires, while some others do not. Will make a very interesting final quarter of this race.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and we've seen sort of phases of this race where if you can get the strategy to go your way and if you can get some track position, you can make something happen. We saw that happen with Keegan Leahy. Didn't qualify well, was kind of trapped, you know, about mid-pack, ended up getting himself up front, and he really has turned himself into a contender for this race win. Wouldn't be surprised if some of these drivers that have now cycled their way up towards the front of the field could do the same. We saw Mode Motorsports put it on a heck of a show last night in the World of Outlaws Non-Century Sprint Car Series with Justin Thomas. Great battle in a 3-wide a race for the win in their heat race. I think these Mode Motorsports cars might put on another similar show here tonight.
Some cars looking for wave rounds to maintain lead lap status. That'll include Corey Vincent, Casey Tucker, Chris Sherbert, Michael Guerrilla, Jimmy Mullis, Taylor Hurst, Kerwin, Novak, Shelton. You got a lot of drivers. Pretty much everybody 22nd. Yeah, 22nd through 37. So half the field getting those wave rounds. Their decision to not come down to the pit lane is going to allow us to keep 37 of 38 cars scored on the lead lap. And, well, just when you started to think that drivers who had played their cards right early, worked themselves into a good position, we're going to get rewarded with a little bit of breathing room, you are mistaken, because we have a race start due up from Richmond. Based on history at a short track like this, I would say maybe not the last one, but this one is going to come with 52 laps to go. But Keegan Leahy got a right foot down, green flag in the air, we're back underway. Good jump over Luza for the race lead. The 53 comes down to protect second.
Luza able to get to that inside line. Look at Christian Chalner up here in the top 5, putting something together for that JTG Doherty Racing team. To the outside he goes, Garrett Lowe. We saw him run so strong earlier this evening. He's now back in the top 5, and behind there's Phil Diaz and Eric Smith going at it. Some great names here in the top 10 we haven't talked a whole lot about this evening, but now they have an opportunity to make a name for themselves here at Richmond Raceway.
And you can see the rest of the field here going to continue to fight it out. Phil Diaz, P6, first car on the outside line, has an opportunity to go low, but it's the 51 of Eric J. Smith sticking a nose in there. So his GoPro Motorplex car dives down low. That'll make it side by side for 6 and 7, and in front of them side by side for 4 and 5.
We got a car around. I think it might be Ryan Luton. No, I take that back. It may be Timmy Hill. I think it was his teammate around down the back straightaway. Indeed, it was that 63 car. So another incident off of turn 2. Bobby Zielinski once again involved in this one. A to Michael Connie. Even more iconic duos, though. Bobby Zielinski and having issues at Richmond.
It looked like Michael Conti there in the 8 machine is actually where this incident comes from. We're 3 wide. Conti is behind the 63 machine of Timmy Hill and wanted to make a transition from the middle to the bottom. You see squeeze there, and he wasn't able to fit that car in that spot. Maybe the Chevy SS would fit, but that ZL1 did not. And he gets the back of the 63, the front of the 77, just not enough space. And that's a big incident. Luckily enough for Conti, who's had a very good night this evening, he hangs on to it, but a tough break for everybody who gets some damage out of that one.
And he's still got, and those drivers that are there like Ryan Lowe, who spun out in the back straightaway there, still have about 50 laps or so, or less than 50 laps to try to salvage what they can. Another onboard view as they go down into corner number 1, and that hole closes up fairly quickly. We saw it a little bit earlier with Blake Reynolds and Keegan Leahy battling for that lead position. You leave that driver on the inside just enough room to try to make a position or at least get the nose there, but you don't want to open that door completely because, as you saw there, Evan, you're going to take every opportunity you can to try to pick up a position and get whatever line you can.
Once again, your race leaders decide to stay out on the racetrack. Cars mid to back are on the pit lane. Looks like Nathan Lyon and Michael Guest may be the first 2 drivers to have come down to the pit lane and rejoin the group. So the cars up front looking like, Randy, that they're going to want to lock in here. Curious if we end up with a 30-lap run or so, if maybe that'll change their minds. The yellow comes out. Maybe you want the tires. That's awfully late, though, to be giving up track position. But at this juncture, they want to defend those top 10 spots.
Yeah, I think that we're going to have to see another 15 to 20 or so laps running the tires, I think, for these guys even thinking about coming down pit road. But like you just said, if we go too far, they're not going to want to come down pit road just because there would be not enough time really to warrant the new tires. So it is sort of that's the race we're sort of playing in terms of when pit road will sort of close for these drivers in terms of when they would ever make a trip down for tires. It's really, I think, the last potential lap you'd ever want to come down pit road, it will probably be somewhere around lap 170, if not 175. I think if we run green to there, we may see some split strategies going on, maybe even some 2-tire shenaniganry as well.
That's all a question of if and when. You never know what the future holds, but certainly this one looks like it is going to be a barn burner down to the end. That incident, I think, all things considered, 3 wide, a lot of contact, nobody totally junked. Again, still all 38 cars in this race. I think that's all you can ask for when you come to a race like this, and it's certainly going to come down to some key moments, but the restarts have been exciting, no doubt, but that's for second on back. We really haven't seen, Tim, with the advantage that control car gets, being able to dictate the start from when the pace car dives down to the pit lane to when the green flag actually comes out at the exit of the restart box. It's a pretty big buffer here at Richmond because of where that pace car dives down to the pit lane back in turn number 3. We really haven't seen a leader have a bad restart tonight, aside from maybe the very initial start of the race, but they don't have preference or priority on that one. So Keegan Leahy, I think if he goes through the motions here and gets a good start, he's going to get that advantage. Of course, if loses on your bumper in a lap or 2, that's a different story, but your race leaders have been very good out of the box tonight.
And I think this is the best opportunity to see something happen here, Evan, because you have the 53 of Ryan Luza on the outside. Very good race car. Not knocking any of the other restarts we've had here this evening, but Keegan Leahy is good. Ryan Luza has had speed. These two have battled all season long up in front early in this season for the championship in those playoff spots, and I think we're getting ready to see it here again.
Pace car is going to dive down and in. Let's listen to him. Keegan Leahy to the restart. 44 laps to go. Flag out on the speedway will slow him down, and as you were on board with some of your race leaders, you could tell the incident not coming from the front of the field. This one a little bit further back as issues struck down into turn number 1. A lot of smoke, a lot of sparks. It was Zach Novak in the number 6 machine around, and how about this, Tim? We've been talking about 3 wide, 4 wide that time into the corner. It didn't work.
Yeah, these guys were going at it middle of the pack for these positions, and Zach Novak hasn't had a great night. You see him there in the middle, 4 wide, down into corner number 1, and it just gets tight. Nichols is there, and a little bit of contact there. Casey Tucker might have got a piece of it. Little glancing blow as he went by Novak, but this has not been Zach Novak's night, let's just put it that way. And he struggled a little bit in middle of this race, the second half of this race. He's trying to get that position, but it just seems like every time he gets a few positions towards the front of the field, he ends up back at square one, and now he's got a little bit of damage to that Roush Fenway Ford.
Another caution flag, another opportunity for pit lane to be open. However, your race leaders again decide track position is the priority, so they all stay out. Cars towards the back down to the pit lane. Starting to notice a trend here as these yellows, Randy, take a chunk about 4 or 5 laps out of this.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, it's important to keep in mind, we still have these 7 cars on the lead lap here as they run. So I think we're going to see a succinct lack of cars down pit road down this last 40 laps. I think now that we've got this caution, it's going to, handful of laps to let the tires cool down. I think that lap 170 mark pretty much goes away. The only reason you're pitting is that you're if you're at the back of the field anyways, then all you're going to do is potentially gain spots on new tires, or if you have some damage, you want to come down and try to get repaired if another yellow comes out. But beyond that, I think pit road is going to be a pretty desolate place for these next 40 laps. Question's going to be, these next 40 laps, how are they going to go? Because if I recall, last season it had a very similar feel to this. Couple cautions early, big long green flag run through the middle with some green flag stops, then get a caution with about 50 to go, and we pretty much stack cautions to the end. That sort of has a similar feel this season as drivers are going to get more and more aggressive to pick up spots with laps slowly winding down here.
And not to add any pressure to the guys at the racetrack, but the last 2 finishes that we've seen here in 2019, and you got to relive all the action from Texas at the start of the broadcast tonight. The highlights from that one with our iRacing race recap. You missed any of those, you can find recaps and the remixes from all of the races this season on the iRacing socials, on Twitter, on the YouTube, and all of that good stuff. But, I mean, we've had some thrilling conclusions to some races here this season. So not to put the bar up high, but, I mean, this one almost playing into that kind of a scenario as well also.
Steve mentioned Auto Club when he was in here, and Eric J. Smith, the driver who barely got that win, is right now sitting in position number 7 right now as we pace under the caution flag. There's still some time, though, for some of those drivers to get towards the front of the field and try to sneak away a win. And looking back here, I did see one driver making a 3-wide move on that restart. Evan Ray Alfala back in the top 10 in position number 8, just behind Eric J. Smith, and was looking a little bit earlier at his stats throughout. Obviously, he's won 3 races here at Richmond. He's won the last 2. He's led at least a lap in every single race we've run here, except for 1 year back in 2015 where he didn't lead any laps at all. He's led over 450 laps here, and he's looking to add to that total here this evening. He's still got some laps to get towards the front, but he's got to start hustling here as we're under 40 laps to go.
And with the lights out on top of the pace car comes another critical restart. Leahy should be able to handle it. Question is, can Logan clamp it from the inside of row 2 and 3rd, make some noise, get up on the inside of Luza? Those two have found each other in some precarious positions a lot this season. We'll see if tonight's another green flag back in the air. 163 laps down this time, and a good jump for the 99. 3 wide to the inside. Look at Garrett Lowcomb from row 3 to the bottom of the racetrack. He'll go 3 wide for 3rd. He'll get both of those spots behind them. A lot of contact down the back. Still in one piece for the moment. Now Eric J. Smith, he's up high and into the outside wall.
Thinking of the bit of contact with the 21 of Ray Alfala. This is going to get tight in the middle of the field, and the 77 of Ashton Crowder is going to get sent around with the 51 car up against the wall right at the track out point with the whole field of cars coming through. If it was, I think, inevitable that someone was going to end up getting spun around, in the 77 of Crowder, the big loser there. You can see it as they come through turns number 3 and 4, the 51 up there, and actually it was after they were passed, he gets hooked by, I believe it was the 46.
Yeah, just a little bit of a squeeze there. Crowder came down to avoid Eric J. Smith, who is in the outside wall, and the problem is he kind of pinched the 46 of Jimmy Mullis and the 20 of Jake Nichols down. Really nowhere for those two to go, and I mean, it was a miracle they had made it that far anyways after that huge dive. I was talking about look out for, clamping from the inside of row 2, Tim, and here comes Lowe for the inside of row 3, all the way to the inside, makes the move, makes it stick. That's completely separate from where the incident comes from, where Smith ends up and into the outside wall. We were just talking about Auto Club. That felt like an Auto Club restart.
Yeah, that sense of urgency is starting to rise a little bit here, Evan, as you see those guys needing to come to the front of the field to try to position themselves for a shot at winning this thing. And at the end of the day, I don't think we're going to see any more pit stops unless we get a little bit of a green flag run in here. You might have a little bit of pit strategy near the end. See some of the drivers at the back of the field, guys like Taylor Hurst coming down into pit road to get service onto their race car. I think I saw Timmy Hill pop down there onto pit road. But for the most part, we're for those ones up front, I think we're done pitting unless we get some green flag laps into this one. So you got to make hay while the sun shines. And for guys like Garrett Lowe, who have run well here after starting just outside the top 15, you've got to get going and put yourself in a position to potentially win this thing.
Another opportunity for these drivers to reset, take a deep breath. The crews, the spotters, all to recalculate on what they think you need to do. But I think Garrett Lowe, who gains 2 positions from that, and it both happened in turn 1, kind of showed that if you're willing to go for it, the inside is an option, Randy, because the way that you're taking the entrance into turn 1, really any lap, but especially off of the restart, you want to take that big, wide sweep down to the inside. The bottom's open, and Garrett Lowe was up on the wheel, dove to the inside. It didn't give him a great entry at all, which is why I think that pass was so impressive, because you had 2 other drivers on a rather optimal line against you basically riding that yellow line, but Garrett Lowe just proved that the inside's open and you're brave enough, you can make something happen. So I wonder if some other drivers behind him in the top 10 saw that move and are going to consider pulling it out for themselves.
I guarantee you someone saw that number 28 card pretty much just send it and are probably going to be doing their best impression from that Renegades machine on this restart. And I wouldn't be surprised if it stacks up another yellow as well. I mean, you can't leave that bottom open like that just in case that car behind you, if you are Logan, gets the run the way that he just did. And yeah, it was not a great turn entry for corner entry, for Garrett Lowe. But when he gets up the inside like that, he's gonna always upset the way those 2 cars up top are being able to run in terms of the way that they're playing to enter the corner. So when Garrett shoves it to the inside there and Logan hears car low, he may have to jump out of the wheel a little bit, maybe even get the brakes. And that might give the advantage. That's probably what gave the advantage to that 28 car. So let's see, though. The 99 of Clampett is going to be lining up right behind him on this restart. Let's see if Logan gets a little bit of a revenge inkling on this restart.
He's got an opportunity to make those spots back up. He and Garrett Lowe trade positions. Lowe goes up to 3rd. Clampett goes down to P5. In fact, exactly where he started this race. Your pole sitter was Ryan Luza. He's P2, but that has not been the case for all the cars up here. Some impressive performances. Keegan Leahy, 32nd to 1st. Garrett Lowe, 18th to 3rd. You got somebody like a Christian Challenger, 27th to 4th. You got a 3-car group, Phil Diaz, Brian Schoenberg, Blake Reynolds, 6, 7, and 8 right now on track. They all started outside of the top 20, so there are a lot of cars up front that have really had to scrap and claw for everything that they've got and have an opportunity to get a lot of vital points here tonight as round 5 starts to trickle down to the end of it. The 62 waits a little bit longer, but it is another good restart. Leahy, all him to turn 1.
Phil Diaz and Blake Reynolds nearly had a moment back there for position number 5, but they keep it straight. They're 3 wide in the middle of the pack, but up in front, Keegan Leahy's been able to get out to the lead, and Garrett Lowe's been able to occupy inside line, battle for 2nd. Ryan Luza on the outside trying to hold onto it, and Garrett Lowe trying to take away the runner-up position.
Better run that time at turn 4 for Luza. They'll dive down into turn number 1. Garrett Lowe not being given much space, but the flip side, Tactics car up on the outside, and it is a position gained for Luza. Wins out in that after Garrett Lowe again trying to make the inside work. So single file 1, 2, and 3. It's Leahy, Lowe, Luza, Clampett behind now in P4.
Clampett, then Challoner in that 5th spot, running with Blake Reynolds, and Blake's going to pick that spot up on Challoner, so move him outside of the top 5. Outside behind that 99, it's 2 by 2 up and down the entire field. This 30 car just about clear of Christian. I think he doesn't have him. I take that back off of 4. Now he does. They get ready to turn into one. The 55 and Schoenberg now is going to show the nose on that 37.
And he makes a move to the inside. Brian Schoenberg, what a run it's been for that entry, having clawed through the field in a very good position in the Chill Blast entry, but it is going to be Challoner winning out for the time being. Schoenberg looks to the inside again, opposite on, go for it, and that leaves Alfala Diaz fighting, but a battle for the race lead all the way up front. Here comes a charge to the inside line, as it is Luza trying to hold off the 62 car, who's got a great spot on the outside, and he slides up in front. Ryan Luza, top of Leahy.
He tried to cross him over but couldn't get there, and don't look now, Garrett Logan occupy that inside line. They're going to dance for position number 2, and that's all we needed. A couple of laps. Ryan Luza, that car comes in a little bit and takes that lead away, and now the battle is for that 2nd place position, but Garrett Lowe can't get that car to the extreme inside that Keegan Leahy leaves him, and now they make a 3-car battle for the lead position just behind. Blake Reynolds and Logan Clampett exchange positions. Blake Reynolds up to position number 4, and Evan, we saw that 30 car around the midway portion of this race be really strong, and as long as he can get some laps in here, I think Blake Reynolds is going to play into the equation for the win here.
He was very good. In fact, one of, if not the best car on that very long run. There's not a ton of time left in this race, though. Only going to be 22 laps to go next time through. That's assuming it stays green for the rest of this, as Blake Reynolds got enough in that Team Dillon Esports car. He looks to the inside of Lowe, setting up a battle for 3rd. He'll get there. The 28 thought about coming down and taking that line away. Instead, he gets there, and they'll be door-to-door down the back.
To wheel in towards turn 3, and this 30 car has so much speed, he's going to make it look easy. So Blake Reynolds comes off of turn 4, puts himself 3rd. Now he's got the 62 of Keegan Leahy he needs to try to reel in.
And the key here is to get those positions fast and furiously. You can't sit around, spend a lot of time making it pretty. You get to them, you got to get the position and execute, because not only do you still have to get up to the race leader Ryan Luza, it's a 7/10 of a second disadvantage. That time by a 20.398 for Reynolds. It was better than the 20.413 for Luza, so that's fine, but he still has to pass Leahy and make up nearly 3/4 of a second at about 19 laps. That's a tall order for the driver of the 30 car.
And these passes are going to get tougher as he gets closer to the front of the field. You know Keegan Leahy's not going to roll over easy for that 30 or for any other race car on this racetrack. And if they get to side-by-side battling, it's going to make Ryan Luza pull away from those two. But Blake Reynolds has caught Keegan Leahy. He can't waste a whole lot of time here, Evan. We're coming down to 18 laps to go. He's going to make this pass and make this pass quick if he wants to get up there to Ryan Luza. To the inside that he goes. Reynolds going to try to make it happen for position number 2.
He didn't get the exit at a turn number 2 that he needed, though. It looked like he had set him up. But Keegan Leahy, listen, the 62 machines got no reason to make this easy on the 30. And while it may not be the intention of Leahy to help lose it out, that's exactly what he is doing. That's the first lap at about a dozen or so that Reynolds didn't make up any time at a 53. And I mean, Leahy's just smothering him on the inside, giving him no space, Randy, down low.
And I don't actually think this is a good move by Keegan at all, because the harder he fights the 30, I think it's going to make it more and more difficult that Blake can potentially go up there and fight with Ryan. Keegan does not have the speed to go and chase that 53 car down. The 30 does. I think if you're Keegan Leahy, the play needs to be allow Blake into 2nd place and let him and Ryan start fighting, and then try to take advantage. The more you try to hold up this 30 car, the more you're really just locking yourself into 2nd place at best.
And now he is going to have to try to change things up. Looking to the outside, really backs up the corner, aiming for a run at a turn number 2 and down the back straightaway. But he is losing critical time. Loses advantage has now once again grown to 6/10 of a second. And the 30 machine, a little bit of worse for wear with some damage. Probably driving that car harder than he has. all night long. Is he going to be able to make this happen, or is this going to be the nail in the coffin? Leahy, the 62, continues to hold off in second. Now another look to the inside. Maybe Reynolds' best chance yet.
That was one of the best moves that he had, middle of the corner off to try to set something up. If he can get to the inside here, Keegan Leahy going to give him that lane to the inside to try to make it work. Blake Reynolds has to get that run off the corner, and you saw it there coming off of turn 2, Evan. Tried to get him up as close to the wall as he could without making any contact with Keegan Leahy. He's got to do that to try to get that run and that momentum off the corner. He couldn't do it. Slides back in behind for position number 3. And keep in mind, I know Randy talked about letting Blake Reynolds go and try to race down Ryan Luza. There's money on the line for second and third place. And keep in mind, Keegan Leahy lost 2 races by less than a tenth apiece and lost a little bit of dough at the end of that one, so I'm sure that's in the back of his mind as well. Big picture, some money, some points on the line, and make sure you keep that 30 behind you.
10 laps to go this time around. You're looking at a $150 difference in payout as this battle rages on, and the 30 machine really now notching up the intensity as he goes to the bottom. They had an awfully close call into turn 2 about 2-3 laps ago where the 30 got tight. Maybe would have gotten up into Leahy. Probably could have just stayed in the gas, but lifted, not wanting to get physical. Now they're nose to nose. The 30, a little bit of tail end happiness that time off the quarter, giving it everything he can, but not willing to use the chrome horn as they fight for a $250 payout for second and a $100 payout for third. Luza continues to pull away. He's got 8/10 good, and he's only got 8 laps left to hold him on.
Blake's being a very patient man here. I think not giving the 62 car the fender. I think most people by now would have, if not would have done so about 5 or 6 laps to go. They come across the stripe, and Keegan continues to just barely hang on that outside line. Blake down to the bottom. The 62 tries to squeeze him. Can Blake maybe get the exit because of that? Seems like the answer is going to be no, and Blake's going to have to fall back in the line as we approach 5 laps to go.
The 30 machine again looks at the back bumper, goes to the inside. At this point, I think best case scenario is second place if it is to stay green. And as we say that, caution flag at 6 laps to go. We will have a restart to determine the win at Richmond. It is issues in the back of the field for the 83 of Adam Benefield.
And that's heartbreak for Adam Benefield. He had such a good night going, was running in the top 10 a little bit earlier, had a little contact with Gariglia and couldn't save that race car, and it puts that car into the turn number 4 wall to bring out the caution late in this one. So we'll re-rack him and restack him with less than 5 laps to go. One more look at this one is Gariglia and the 83 of Benefield battle for position. Jarl Tien right there, Dylan Duval, Bobby Zielinski right in front of that pack there. They were going hard for those positions, and it brought out the caution. The thing that I'm concerned about is the 62 of Keegan Leahy. He obviously had the 30 behind him of Blake Reynolds. Garrett Lowe was closing in. All bets are off now. You're going to get what you can on this final restart of the evening, but Keegan's going to start on the outside. We saw Garrett Lowe get a good jump on the inside behind Ryan Luza, and now it's going to be the 30 of Blake Reynolds having that opportunity. I think, Evan, that obviously that Ryan Luza has a great opportunity with being the leader here. The battle might be for second place, and if they can figure it out before Ryan Luza gets away too far.
Ironically enough, right at that 6 lap to go mark, I was going to mention, maybe Reynolds needs a restart here. That point of no return, as we often say, is 4 laps to go or less. I was about to bring that up when that caution flag comes out, so we will have a restart. It could be 3 laps, 2 laps, or 1. We'll find out. I know that we had questioned Randy, 50 laps ago if we had a longer run, if drivers would want tires. I think it's a no-brainer here that the guys up front continue to stay out. It's all about track position now, and it is going to be a crazy battle for the win. Difference though, if it's a 2-lap run to the end or a 1-lap run to the end, because if it's a green-white checker and you got 2 laps around, then you can't necessarily just bonsai down into turn 1 with that inside line. But Blake Reynolds is lined up in a great position to try to get down to the inside of Luza, whereas if it is just a 1-lap shootout, as long as you take the green flag, it really doesn't matter what happens. First car back's walking away with $500 and the checkered flag.
Yeah, that's going to be really the big thing, is whether it's going to be a 1-lap or a 2-lap restart. A couple of the drivers streaming the race on their own personal Twitch streams. I'm clicking through. I don't see a go or one to go indicator just yet. So I think we're going to have ourselves a one-lap shootout because they should have seen that by now. But man, this is going to be crazy. This is becoming a consistent thing now in this series. I think this is 4 races out of 5 that we set ourselves up with a 1 to 2 lap restart. Happened at Auto Club, happened last time out at Texas, and now it happens here at Richmond. If memory serves, we saw a similar situation at Daytona as well. So Las Vegas proving the only track thus far this season to say that we want to have a handful of green flag runs to the end, green flag laps to the end, excuse me, as opposed to 1 or 2. And this is going to get crazy for these guys.
The lights stayed on top of the pace car as that time by. We took 3 laps to go, so we will not have a green-white checkered finish because we would have needed the lights to go out that time through and the restart to be this time up. So if the lights go out this time by, Tim, it means it'll be a 1-lap shootout to decide it, and I did specify that you have to get to the start-finish line for that race to be official and the race itself out, because I guess that's not even guaranteed when you got all that cash on the line and a wide-open restart. We'll see as the pace car rounds at a 4.
You'd have to believe that Ryan Luza is going to get that jump that he can as the lights go off atop the pace car, so we'll have that 1-lap dash. Once that pace car peels off, keep an eye on Ryan Luza to try to get the best restart of his career here at Richmond to try to pick up his first win here. Keegan Leahy, those last 2 races that we talked about with exciting finishes, have finished less than a tenth, less than a car length from him and winning the race. And you better believe that he's tired of finishing second. He wants to win one. And oh, by the way, last year here at Richmond, it was Blake Reynolds finishing in at 9th, obviously trying to better that. If he can keep the thing straight, he should come home with the top 5. But obviously, Evan, he wants to win. Bring us home.
35 drivers on the lead lap, $850 on the line, and 3/4 of a mile to decide this one. Green flag in the air. It's the final lap from Richmond. They're going to race it out. They get to turn 1. Ryan Luza with a great restart, going to lead a top of battle for second. Reynolds gets payback on the 62 Leahy. That's a big wreck behind. Garrett Lowe's down into the inside wall. Will race this thing out, and Ryan Luza going to go back-to-back race win number 3 on 2019.
We can tell just by looking where the top handful of cars were, but the rest of the field were fanning out 3 and 4 wide, coming to the stripe. A lot of positions decided by just a couple hundredths of a second. Some congratulatory rubs coming now to that 53 machine of Ryan Luza, who is making this a habit this season. We saw him in 2017 come out and win this championship his first time running it. 2018, he was runner-up, and now this year he seems to be poised, setting himself up for a championship run once again as he just continues racking win after win after win in this series.
It was a rock star restart for Ryan Luza, who just set sail and took off. Left the cars who had been fighting for P2 for the better part of the last 20 laps of this race to fight amongst each other. You saw the 62 Leahy get into the outside wall. That was unassisted. I did not see any contact with him and Blake Reynolds. That's just Keegan Leahy giving it everything he's got. He ends up in the wall. Of course, he's not the one that goes around because racing's very rarely that fair. The one who was unlucky was Garrett Lowe, who got hard into the fence, and you're looking at him now. 3rd win of the season, and the big point that I made when we talked to him last time out is that his win 2 weeks ago at Texas was the 11th of his career. That passed him over Kenny Humpy for 3rd all-time in wins in this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Now he picks up his 12th career win, Tim. Now only 1 behind Nick Ottinger for 2nd all-time.
And you look at the winners that have won here at this racetrack, champions like Ray Alfala, Kenny Humpy, Richard Towler, Nick Ottinger's won here before, Steve Sheehan has won here before, and now you can add Ryan Luza to the mix. That's a great past champions list here at this racetrack, and Ryan Luza, as you mentioned, continues to add to that impressive resume.
Let's take a look top to bottom at your Race Spot TV full race results. It's a win for the pole sitter, Ryan Luza, again, walking away with a critical victory for Flipside Tactics. Blake Reynolds ends up in second position through all of that somehow. Keegan Leahy hangs on for third with Brian Schoenberg and Logan Clampett rounding out your top 5. We will be trackside with all of them in just a moment. Just outside of that, though, Phil Diaz ends up in the number 6 spot. Brad Davies is your hard charger. 30 positions gained to finish in P7. Matt Busa gets an 8th place out of this one. Michael Guest is 9th, and Malik Ray rounds out your top 10.
Christian Chalner, great night for him, comes home in position number 11. 12th is going to be Michael Conti. Up and down night for driver number 8, Jake Nichols. In 13th, Jimmy Mullis and Chris Shearburn complete your top 15. Chris Overland, Casey Kerwin, Nathan Lyon, Bobby Zelensky with all that damage coming home in 20th or 19th, and Ray Alfala coming home in 20th position.
21st, we have the 42 of Dylan Duvall with Jarl Tien in 22nd. Michael Gariglia in 23rd. Corey Vincent 24th. And Ryan Lowe rounds out your top 25. Brandon Hayes-Cattell in 26th. Zach Novak 27th. Cody Bias in 28th. With Casey Tucker and Logan Kress rounding out the top 30.
All these cars, again, still in it. Adam Benefield, 31st. Ben Nelson, 32nd. Timmy Hill finishes 33rd position. Then you get down to the cars who were not so lucky to get all the way through the last lap. You got Eric J. Smith, 34th, and Garrett Lowe in P35. And then the cars behind the wall prior to the one-lap shootout. Nicholas Shelton, 36. Taylor Hurst, 37. And Ashton Crowder in 38th position to round out your look. Top to bottom at your Race Spot TV. Full race results tonight for the Richmond Raceway. I had mentioned that we had seen some thrilling finishes in recent weeks and that this may just lead up to it. It took a late race yellow and yet again a one-lap dash to the end, but it does not disappoint as Luza ends up victorious once more.
And a quick little dash at the end of that one there, and a little bit of that heartbreak on the back straightaway for Garrett Lowe. Coming down to the end of that one, the last lap on the back straightaway, Logan Clamper checked that Keegan Leahy getting into the wall, and man, Garrett Lowe ran so good tonight for so many laps and finishes in 35th, and you have to believe that's only going to light a fire under the Renegade drivers. You take a look at it here down on that final lap, the 28 of Garrett Lowe, right behind Keegan Leahy. He expects Leahy to get that run off the corner, one would think, and just gets into the wall, and nothing Logan Clampett could do. There's no real reaction time to try to stay off that number 28, and oh man, I hate it for Garrett Lowe because he ran so well here tonight. His day's going to come, though.
There is often very little justice when it comes to, late race contact and a race where anything and everything happens at a one-lap shootout. It doesn't always end fairly, and there's going to be a lot of drivers who felt like tonight that they deserved a lot better a shake, and certainly did, Randy, that aren't going to get the critical points that would, coincide with, the 195 laps that they had prior to the end there.
Yeah, you're right with that one. There's going to be a handful of drivers, especially Garrett Lowe. Especially, we saw the same thing at Texas. A driver running in a strong position get caught up in an incident and then end up coming to the checkers. That was pretty. Garrett Lowe, a half a lap away from a few $100s going in his pocket. He gets caught up on a late race incident. He ends up in 35th, which is going to hurt both the wallet and his point situation. But still, what a great race for those guys. And what a run for Phil Diaz. It's been a while since we've seen that car that strongly up inside of the top 10. I'm really impressed with the 6th place run from that Mode Motorsports driver. Get recently picked up by those guys. He puts out a good showing.
And we just missed an opportunity to chat with him as he comes home at a P6. But talking about some of the drivers who made the end exciting, Blake Reynolds was coming fast at the end of this one. It ends up being a 2nd place finish for the driver of the 30. Tim Terry is standing by with him.
And he had a great battle earlier with Keegan Leahy for 2nd place, coming to that caution flag, and we'll see if we can't get a hold of Blake here. Blake, what was going through your mind when you saw that caution flag come out, setting up that one lap to go shootout?
Well, I was really scared because I had probably the best long-run car here, and I was really hoping to pass Keegan and catch up to Ryan there. I didn't know about the short-run speed we had there, but ended up working for that one lap.
How frustrating maybe was
The road to $100,000 takes on No Limits Texas, where from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 4 of the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. The pace cars down at Endo, and Michael Conti, familiar territory. He takes the green flag. We're underway from Texas. It's about as far apart as you could be. We'll be in side by side. Michael Conti not at all interested in pinching that 53 down. They were dead even that last time by. The gap 0.000. But look at the A car way up high. He's not squeezing the 53 down. Conti really likes that run off of the corner there.
Look at the drama in front of him, and we're about to shake everything up as Challoner gets caught up in an incident through the quad oval.
After 135 laps of green flag in the air, 6 laps to go from Texas. Here they come into turn 4. The 62 again tries. Left side tires are into the grass, and a caution flag behind them.
18 is Linsky caught up in this huge incident, and did we actually make our window?
Lights on top of the pace car are out, and we have a 1-lap shootout to decide it. As we come to it, 1 more lap to go.
Tight restart. Keegan Leahy holding that outside line. Corey Vincent hasn't been able to get up to the back bumper of the 53 of Ryan Luza as of yet, and shuts the door. There goes the 62 to the outside. Corey Vincent to the inside. They're going to drag race behind Ryan Luza.
It's side by side for second, but here comes Leahy. And welcome back live to the virtual Richmond Raceway for the Race Spot TV post-race show following tonight's Richmond 200, which sees Ryan Luza head to victory lane for the 3rd time in this 2019 campaign. As we noted, most importantly, continues to put him at the top of the mountain. We're down with the driver of the number 53 machine now. Ryan, congratulations on yet again another win. And it seems like you're able to put yourself in these positions, but nothing guarantees that you're going to be able to get the job done. They always have that little bit of late race drama. Tonight, no exception, but yet again, you're on top of the mountain. The $500 purse is yours, and you're a 3-time winner on the season.
Yeah, it feels great. After, I think we were probably 40 laps in, and a lot of us stayed out. Me, Conti, and Clampett stayed out with like 10-lap old tires, and Keegan and Blake got by us. I mean, they had really good cars too, but that just put us behind the curve basically the entire race. And the way that last caution fell right after green flag pit stops, we had only went like 7 laps, and I'm like, hey, we had 10 laps on our tires last time, and they still had hell passing us. So 7 laps are going to be even better. And only Keegan stayed out, and he had damage, and our car was just an absolute rocket ship for 10 laps, just blazing fast. So I knew if I was going to get by Keegan, I had to do it very, very quickly because there's no guarantee with those cautions like we saw, and just to try to get a gap for all the guys that took 4.
Coming into a race like this, obviously you're continuing to get acquainted to yourself in this new car, and coming into a short track, I think a little bit more familiar territory. You start on a pole position, you win this race. I know that's not the tale of the tape, but it was a very different race for the guys behind you. Blake from 21st, Keegan from 32nd, Brian from 23rd. It seemed like it was a race where drivers had to A, survive the attrition, but also B, figure things out. Whereas you're able to start up front, finish up front. Not a lot of drivers were able to do that. Where do you see the difference?
It was just valuing track position, I think. Especially now with this build, I value track position basically over all else. If I have to have 10-lap older tires, you know, so be it. I think the furthest we got back was 10th, and that's because I got shuffled back on the high side. And other than that, just I value track position over everything. And that's where you saw Keegan get out front. He stayed out early, got his track position, and then evened out on tires. I'm not sure with Blake, but I'm pretty sure about the same thing happened there. So it's just valuing the track position, and you got to keep yourself safe. There's no guarantees if you're out of the top 5.
I know we mentioned that the grand scheme of things is always just make it to the playoffs, but you're always clear that your objective is to come in on a Tuesday night and get a race win. These wins don't give you a huge advantage when it comes to the postseason, but I know it's fun to go out there, make a statement, win races, and of course this season, the $500 purse every time you get a race win throughout the year doesn't hurt either. What are you gaining, though, on a week-by-week basis? Getting stronger, still getting familiar with the team, Flipside Tactics, of course, all the guys that have been with you through the years behind the scenes is you're now up to 12 wins in what is still a relatively young career that includes a championship.
Yeah, it's our career has been great so far. With the teams I was on, work with Keegan last year, Dustin Lingert the year before, Jarl so far this year. So just thanks to all the supporting staff is what it comes down to. Really, I'm not a setup wizard by any means, but we put in the hard work and do a lot of testing. I'll say for this race, I've put in maybe double or triple the effort that I've had to in the past. These cars are driving so much different here on the short track with the horsepower plus the downforce. So it was actually a huge learning curve that I don't think many of us were expecting. And the cars were definitely really crazy. So just thankful to all the supporting staff, Flipside, iNASCAR, Jarl, Derek for being on the box, and everything that iRacing has done with NASCAR to blow this series up.
Last time we raced at Talladega Superspeedway in this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series was in July of 2013. We return in 2 weeks' time for the 6th race of the season. It is, of course, therefore, the first time we've had 2 plate races on a schedule in quite some time. What do you look forward to at a plate track like that?
I don't look forward to anything, to be honest with you. I look forward to hopefully staying out front, but you know that's not going to happen at a plate track. So I hate it with all of my insides, but we're going to try. I mean, we got a 6th at Daytona, and we were actually in position to win. So it's just nice. We have a decent gap now. We've ran really well, so that puts us in position to have a bad day at Talladega, which I'm thankful for. But definitely not looking forward to it. But hopefully we continue the good runs for Flipside.
I'll tell you what, we've certainly heard you say that you're a little bit iffy about a track upcoming a couple of times, and that car's ended up at Victory Lane, so we look forward to seeing what comes out of April 23rd. But Ryan, we'll let you get out of here. Before we do, anybody else you want to say hi to from Victory Lane?
Just thanks to everyone who supports me. Thanks to Twitch chat, everyone who watched my stream. I have a good time racing, just trying to make it a little more interesting during the cautions, but thanks to everyone for watching. And like I said, everything, especially iRacing and NASCAR, is done with all these teams to get everyone involved.
The race winner tonight from Richmond, Ryan, we always appreciate your time. Congratulations on the win. You keep putting it on them now, way out in front of the points, and win 3 out of the 5 races thus far. Congrats, and we'll catch you next time out.
Thanks, Evan.
He is your race winner tonight for the virtual Richmond Raceway. Back with Blake Reynolds, who Tim Terry was caught up with. We'll continue that trackside. The driver who started 21st and finished in 2nd place is trackside with Tim.
Well, let's pick up where we left off, Blake. Talking about this race, 2nd place. You have to feel happy with that battle. What was going through your mind when you saw that green flag on that 1-lap dash?
You know, I didn't want to do anything rash. I just was going to be patient. My main focus is getting past Keegan. I didn't think with the jump that Luza was going to get there, I could run him down in 1 lap. But I got Keegan there and was able to bring home 2nd.
How big is this race is a turning point for this season? Obviously, we're still early in the season. There's still lots of races to run, but a 2nd place run, how big is that to turn the momentum around heading forward into the bulk of the schedule?
Yeah, you know, I'm usually an average 15th guy the last year or 2 when I've been in PEAK. But, you know, Richmond's always been a great track for me. I knew I'd do well. I didn't think I'd do this well, man. This was a real big turning point, as you said, and I'm just really happy that I was able to get up from, well, I was 12th in the standings. Now I'm up to 9th, so really good day for us.
And you got drafted here a couple of weeks ago as well. Talk about your new team with Team Dillon Esports. How cool is it to be picked up by Austin Dillon and the team?
Yeah, it took a while to get drafted there. But really glad with the team I got. They were kind enough to bring me out to Texas Motor Speedway for the Cup race last weekend, I believe, or the week before. And I don't think any other team has done that. I would greatly say I'm on the best team for the draft.
And who do you got in this race, Karen? Who helps you get to the virtual racetrack each week?
Well, everyone at Team Dillon Esports. My crew chief for this week is Dustin Lingert. He did a great job in all week Houston Hammer for working on the set, and Austin Craven, Austin Dillon, and all the boys at Austin Dillon Esports.
There's Blake Reynolds coming home position number 2 here this evening. Great finish, Randy, for the driver of the number 30. Expect big things out of this team as we go forward in this season. And I believe you've caught up with a driver who was tired of talking to me in second, so he finished 3rd this evening, Keegan Leahy.
Yeah, obviously I'm a much better conversationalist, Tim, so I can't blame Keegan one bit. But I will say, as happy as Blake is with his results, I feel Keegan probably left a bit on the table. Keegan, you were leading late in the race at one point before Ryan was able to get up to you, and once he eventually got by, he was pretty much gone. You were fighting with Blake for a long time. Did you think that was sort of before we got that yellow, did you think you're going to be able to hold Blake off, or did you feel that was potentially a losing fight?
I made some adjustments on the pit stop after like that green flag pit stop when I was battling with Blake, and I think I would have been a lot closer on speed with him that last run. So if it went green, I think I definitely had a solid shot of winning, and it's so hard to pass here anyway. So yeah, I definitely had a shot if it went green, but I really can't complain about the luck because I got extremely lucky and made some really good pit strategy calls as well. But through the race, I made my way up from my starting spot. I think it was 32nd all the way up to the lead. So can't complain, honestly, about the luck and the cautions.
And, talking about, today, that car was so fast tonight. What happened during qualifying? Because obviously you qualified 32nd, and then once you got the little bit of strategy call to get yourself out front, I don't think you dipped out of the top 5, top 6 for the rest of the evening. So what really, what went wrong during qualifying for you tonight?
Yeah, so we didn't really have the best qualifying setup, but it was definitely capable of having a decent spot in the top 10. But I did my first lap and wasn't happy with it, so I stopped before I get to the line because we have 2 attempts. And on my second attempt, before I even got to the line, I spun out of turn 4 and had no speed coming to the line. So just continued with my lap, hoped to at least start ahead of a few people. But no, I pretty much qualified dead last out of the people that completed a lap.
And really last question, right now it's you and Luza who are really kind of rising above the rest thus far this season. We've had a couple other drivers have a good couple races here and there, but they've been caught up in incidents or just not had the luck or haven't had the ability and consistency to be able to finish up front race after race after race. What do you think you guys are missing to where you're just barely getting beat out by Luza seeming week on week?
Well, Luza's a spectacular driver. I can't take that away from him, but it just doesn't work out quite right at the end of these races. I always have cars set up for these long runs, and then when we get these short runs at the end of the race, I'm in position for them, but I can't really capitalize. And yeah, speaking of getting caught up in incidents, I had my first one pretty much of this whole series on my last lap there, and ended up taking out Garrett. So I really have to apologize to him and his team. I feel horrible about it. I can't imagine how he feels. I feel terrible.
Well, before we let you go, Keegan, who gets it done for that number 62 G2 esports car?
Yeah, thanks to Virtual Racing School on the Hood. Coaching, video, tutorials, setups, whatever you need to get faster, we got it for you. Got to thank Jarl for being my teammate on G2, everyone that helps over at G2 getting this set up, and Mitchell DeYoung for spotting. Super big deal. He was part of these strategy calls, and that's what got me up front. Got to thank Bobby and Chris for the work on the setup this week. And thanks to everybody watching at home, especially my dad, who I've really wanted to send a shout out to because he's watched pretty much every one of these races I've done. And love him.
So Keegan Leahy goes nearly plus 30 on the night to go from 32nd up to 3rd, and the final driver in the top 5 to make a big recovery drive after bad qualifying is the 55 of Brian Schoenberger, who goes 23rd to 4th. Mr. Tim Terry has stood by with the driver of the double nickel.
Man, it's been a while since I've been able to do this too. Brian Schoenberg comes home in position number 4. You had to work for it here tonight, Brian. Let's talk about the early stages of this race, coming from 23rd position up to 4th. How'd you do it?
Tim, it was not easy, my man. With the way the multi-grooves works around this track and everything else, when you're stuck back there, you can't do anything except hang on tight. And I had a different crew chief on the box tonight. Nick Ottinger was suspended because of incident points. And as you guys know, Nick is one amazing PEAK driver, and he's an awesome teammate. And he just kept me in the game all night. We did all sorts of strategy to gain track position, and we were on the same page the whole entire race, and it was like magic. Caution came out at the right time, gained our track position in the top 10, had fresh tires, and you know what, Tim? Just like the old days, we never looked back. Didn't even need that rearview mirror.
And we've seen these races play out before where we've had caution flags at the end, and in a one-lap dash, you had to battle with Logan Clampett. How hard did you drive that thing into turn number 3 to try to keep that 99 behind you?
Well, honestly, to tell you the truth, that whole lap, I was so scared because we got through the gears pretty good, which is your first battle. Then we're coming off turn 2, and Keegan, car right in front of me, hits the wall and scares the living heck out of me. And then they all start wrecking or doing whatever they were doing inside of me. And then I see the 51 or someone like that. He has to overdrive the entry to not get wrecked. And I overdrive the entry to not get turned by him because, I mean, you fight all race to get that track position. And once you finally have it, especially with the nightmare year that we've had so far, me this season, I was just waiting for the walls to cave in and us get wrecked on that last lap and finish 35th again. But it wasn't meant to be tonight. I just freaking floored it and it took off and we went.
That's what I was going to ask you. You know how momentum works in this series. How does this turn this season around for this Williams Esports team? Finishing in the top 5 for the first time this season, how does it turn it around for you?
Well, I think it does a lot for us, really. I mean, Busa has been their number 1 driver, and he was doing pretty much good in every single race, and he came back tonight to finish, I think, 8th, 4 straight top 10s in Richmond in a row for us. And I got 20th at Texas, but we should have had a top 10. Then we had a top 5 tonight, so I kind of felt like the momentum's kind of shifting our way. But tonight, man, I had Nick Ottinger on the box, and I was just so thankful for him because he just kept me in the game all day, and he's just cheering me on at the end, and we just had a heck of a time at the end. We were shouting and cheering and screaming and just having a good time, and it was a blast. I mean, those are the types of moments in racing you hope for. I mean, I gotten really down on myself through the first part of this year. We had really, 2 or 3 bad races in a row, way down on the points, like 27th on the second page, and things were really going bad. But I want to thank the guys at Team Conti, Chassis, and all of them for sticking with me. This is our 2-year anniversary race of me being back with them, and it's been a heck of a ride, and I'm so thankful for Brandon Hastings and Michael Conti and everything they do for me, as well as Nick Ottinger, Matt Busa, and Brad Davies. We have a heck of a team, and I couldn't be prouder of this finish, and I'm just so thankful for every single person on that team. They put in so much effort, and I want to say hi to Pat, too. Pat Mallet, my normal crew chief. He's on vacation in Cuba, but we just had a great run, and I can't thank Nick Ottinger and everyone on Team Conti Chassis again.
I was going to say, Pat Mallet needs a tan. He picked a worse time to go. Does that mean he's fired from the box now?
Well, the thing is, with Nick Ottinger, man, I wanted to keep racing, and I know GTG, Doherty Racing wants him to keep racing as well. Because, I mean, he's still 11th or 12th in points, but, you know, after that one, I kind of don't want him to race again. I had so much fun up there. And Tim, funny story for you real quick. I was running C-Fix the other day, and this guy was streaming on YouTube, this younger iRacing. He's talking about, like, Jimmy Mullis and Logan Clampett, a couple of PEAK drivers in the field, and I was in there too. And the guy had no clue I was a PEAK racer, and I've been doing this 9 years, so I'm glad to get a good finish and get the name out there a little bit. Brian Schoenberg, 55 car. Here we are. And let me thank a few more people if we got a sec. Do we?
We've got a second. I know you got some marketing partners on that race car that help you get there.
Of course. I just want to thank Williams Esports, Javier, and everybody over there for picking me as their second car for the season. We got partners with Shield Blast, Team Razor, BenQ, Playseat, Fnatic, One All Sports, and you know, we started off the season slow, but we're now back up to 17th in points in the top 20, and we could kind of go anywhere from here. So we were off to a slow start there, me being, you know, me, but we're getting there now. We've had pretty much 2 good weeks in a row, and we want to keep it going. We'll have a quick car for Dega as well. So I'm really happy, man. I got 4th, but I feel like I won the dang thing, you know?
It seems like that the momentum's going to carry on. You mentioned Talladega in a couple of weeks' time. That's going to be a fun show, and we expect you back up here in the top 5.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thanks you guys for interviewing me and everybody around. just feels so great. And Tim, this is like a throwback interview. This is like what we used to do 6-7 years ago. No one will remember it, but we're doing it right now, and we're going to enjoy this, buddy. Thank you.
This is a blast from the past. Go celebrate this one. That's Brian Schoenberg finishing in position number 4. And you want to talk about another excited individual from California, from the West Coast, Randy? I believe Logan Clampett is up next, finished in the top 5 tonight. Great run for him.
Yeah, I feel bad for Brian Schoenberg, though. No one knowing who he is in the C-Fixed races feels a bit like me and Tim on the Twitterverse. But Logan, that number 99 car looked quick. Both you and teammate Ashton Crowder both up near the front of the field early on. You were leading this race at one point, and then you made some contact with the outside wall. How much did that hurt the performance of your race car?
I mean, I don't think it really hurt it that much. We didn't have, the longest run ever to see where our performance was with that damage, but overall the car was just so solid all night long. I'm super happy we got to lead some laps there near the beginning and battle it out with 2 of the best, Michael Conti and Ryan Luza, and it was just an overall fun race. This is probably the best Richmond Raceway car I've had. Big thanks to Ashton and especially Christian Challoner there. He kind of hopped on board with us this week and probably future weeks also. He turned a bunch of laps and got this thing just perfect.
And now talking about this race tonight, Logan, I mean, it seemed like you were basically side by side fighting inside of that top 5 all race long. You're, of course, one of those drivers who is competing across multiple of the world championships. And, you sort of the other championship you're taking part in on the sprint cars on the dirt side, you get a lot of that side-by-side racing as well. How much do you think actually crosses over being able to, while, of course, there's a little bit of a difference between a wing sprint car and this number 99 Burton Kligerman esports machine. How much of a help do you think it is for you just getting that experience maybe on a different side of things and 2 times every 2 weeks as opposed to once every couple?
I mean, I think car control helps quite a bit, like coming off the corners and stuff here, compared to dirt. And just coming onto dirt. I think running the Cup car last season helped quite a bit. So it's pretty cool. We're struggling a little bit in the sprint cars right now, but we're having fun with it.
Talladega in a couple of weeks' time. How do you guys feel about your super speedway package?
I think it's gonna be pretty insane. I'll be honest. I know they changed the draft package, so it's gonna be more double file, maybe even 3 wide. You might even see 3 wide. So the draft is pretty strong. It's going to be all about surviving the whole time. So hopefully we survive, and I'm probably just hoping for a top 15 finish, I'll be honest. And if we can get out of there alive, and we'll be in good shape.
Well, thanks for joining us, Logan. Congratulations on another top 5. Who gets it done for everyone at that Burton Kligerman esports organization?
Well, first and foremost, thanks to Burton Kligerman Esports, we actually got some gear. Just
swag.
Recently.
Where do we get swag?
Hashtag soon, hopefully. But it's pretty cool being over there on Burton Kligerman. Parker, he's an awesome guy. So it's awesome to get some gear and stuff, being involved. And like I said, thanks to Ashton and Christian for the awesome car tonight, and JD for being up on the box, and NASCAR America on NBCSN for being on the car.
There he is, driver to the number 99, Mr. Logan Clampett puts in another great run tonight to finish inside of the top 5. Evan, back over to you.
Big thanks, as always, our top 5 for giving us some time post-race to chat with the race winner, Ryan Luza, along with Blake Reynolds, Keegan Leahy, Brian Schoenberg, and Logan Clampett. All those drivers getting a good result this evening for the virtual Richmond Raceway, and it continues the trend as what has been an exhilarating 2019 campaign. I mean, listen, the racing's been good regardless, and you take a look at what the championship picture is. Ryan Luza's 3rd win of the year puts him up 210 total points, stretching it out over the likes of Leahy, and then a big jump down to Conti, Mullis, and Bussa, your top 5. But again, the objective beyond that list to be in the playoffs, and there are some big names missing from the top 10 as we look at it through 5 weeks.
There's still some big names missing in that one. Brian mentioned that Nick Ottinger not in the field this evening, so he lost a little bit of ground, but still going to be in 11th place as we move forward. Ray Alfala in 12th. You look down the list, Brian Schoenberg moved up to position number 17. Logan Clampett's up to 14th. There's still some big names there. Eric Smith, who won Auto Club, is now back to 22nd place. The ebb and flow is going to continue, but you look at the trend of Richmond Raceway continuing to make names and bringing drivers up to the front of the field, having some great runs. Blake Reynolds in 2nd place tonight. Phil Diaz in 6th. You look down the list, Malik Ray grinds out a top 10 at the home track for Richmond Raceway Esports. You look down the list, there's some great names and great finishes that we had here. And once again, Ryan Luza, Keegan Leahy up at the front of the field trying to battle this one out at the end. Richmond Raceway gave us everything that it usually does, and we head into Talladega in a couple of weeks' time. So from one of the smallest tracks on the schedule to the biggest track on the schedule, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and I know we can do a lot of analysis to break this race down, and it was certainly an exhilarating race. So if you're anywhere near Richmond this weekend, make sure you get over there and check out the action. But I mean, we can't really talk too much about Talladega. I guess, Randy, the big talking point is we haven't been there in about 6 years or so. It's the 4th time it'll be on the calendar. Again, as I mentioned, last time was in 2013, but I think we're all pretty familiar with what Talladega means. There are those nuances. It's wider, it's taller, and a little bit steeper than Daytona, but at the end of the day, it's a plate race, and I think all of these drivers are very aware of what that means. I think we just have to wait till we get to the racetrack to experience it, and that's one of those races that you just don't overthink.
Well, I mean, you heard it from Logan. He said it's going to be 2 and 3 wide. So if it's not, we're going to have to blame him. But I mean, you're absolutely right. It's a plate race, which is, one of the great equalizers in this series. And, it's going to be potentially anyone's race to win. And much like when we maybe get to some of the other bigger tracks with the package we've seen on the 1.5 to 2 mile racetracks, might be very similar. But Talladega, I think it's going to be an amazing show, and it's good to see some of these tracks we haven't seen in, half a decade return and have 2 plate races on the schedule at once. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be exciting.
5 races down on 2019. We still have a long way to go, and certainly we hope you join us the next time out. But until then, that'll do it for us here tonight for the virtual Richmond Raceway. I want to thank all of the people who make these Tuesday nights broadcasts possible here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. So big thanks for our track cameras from Alex Horde and Word Designs for our broadcast graphics package. The broadcast CG is by Simon Grossman, and for Nick Thyssen on our live timing. For your team tonight, for our director Hugo Louise, a big thanks to our guest at the booth, Steve Letarte. For Tim Terry, Randy Cheneth, and myself, Evan Pasoko, want to thank you for tuning in and to congratulate Ryan Luz, now a 3-time winner on 2019. The action returns 2 weeks' time. That's Tuesday, April 23rd, from none other than the Talladega Super Speedway. That race and every race of the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series can be found right here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night from Richmond.